This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Big one tonight, everybody. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk. Get the whites ready and get a nap in. We've got an 8:52 puck drop tonight in a crucial game between the Winnipeg Jets and the St. Louis Blues in their best-of-7 series, with it all knotted up at 2 after the Jets won their 2 on home ice and the Blues won game 3 and 4 back in St. Louis. Will home ice advantage continue to reign supreme? I certainly hope so tonight. We're going to be all over it. Murat coming up a little bit later on for all angles of the series so far, and this big one tonight. We'll also head down to St. Louis and welcome in Cam Janssen to get his thoughts on the series so far, and maybe from a little bit more of a Blues perspective, which should be it should be a fun conversation. There's also lots going on in and around the National Hockey League. The Sens are not dead, and the collars are getting pretty tight in Southern Ontario. AJ Jakubec in Ottawa is going to pop on. Talk some playoffs with AJ, get his thoughts on Jets Blues, where the Sens are at, heading into Game 6 back at home after their shutout win over the Leafs last night. A little Edmonton, LA, and little CFL talk as well with the draft last night. Some exciting picks made by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Ed Tait from BlueBombers.com will let us know about the class of 2025 for the blue and gold a little bit later on today. But as we get ready for puck drop tonight, it is all about Game 5 tonight at Canada Life Centre. The Whites are back on. The attitudes, I hope, are back feeling confident. The vibes are good, and as we've been talking all week, I mean, listen, it did not go well in St. Louis for the Winnipeg Jets, but they've got a chance to put that behind them with a strong performance on home ice like they have done in this series, in their 2 games at home, and they have done all season long. But make no mistake, this is an all-time gut check for everybody wearing Winnipeg Jet jerseys. We'll hear from Scott Arniel coming up in just a few minutes before we go to St. Louis and welcome in Cam Janssen. A big welcome to everybody with us live on YouTube, even you Blues fans. Everyone welcome here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. It's going to be a fun couple hours for you. And, of course, shout out to everyone listening on the podcast as they get ready for puck drop tonight in Game 5. Do want to thank the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet will be putting together a WST parlay for tonight and probably kicking something together for the golf this weekend with Pat Gregoire. We'll do that later on today on the program. Of course, Princess Auto, Prairie Toyota Dealers, KFC, Ben Moss, St. Vital Dental Center and Rollies Transfer, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Let's Do It Travel, F Apparel and Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Breezy Bend. We'll get to a why not question of the day for not Autocorp but Waverly and McGillivray, and we will absolutely listen to you and get your takes on tonight's Game 5 in fan feedback brought to you by fansfirst.ca. Here we go, Michael Remis. How are you feeling? No more waiting. Well, there is some waiting with this late start tonight, but no more sleeps. The anxiety, the excitement, the pressure, it's all coming down to it tonight. And I know the fans that are going to be there behind the Jets are going to be ready to go, and certainly hope the team is going to be ready to bring their best because they're going to need it to beat a hell of a good St. Louis Blues hockey team that has really grabbed the momentum in this series.
Yeah, I'm here. You know, you've put the 2 games in St. Louis behind, and it's a new series right now. Best of 3. The Jets have home ice advantage. They won They won 2 here before games 1 and 2. I am having some bad flashbacks to the last time these two teams played a game 5, but we're moving on from the past. This is a new team looking ahead to the future, and the Jets do have a chance to rewrite history, taking a game 5 and winning after losing a game in the playoffs, which they haven't done the last couple of years. And look, series have, you're going to have games that are blowouts. Not every game has to be super close. I'm going back to the Stanley Cup final last year. Panthers won game 2, 4-1. Panthers got a 3 lead. Oh, Oilers, they're done. Well, the Oilers won game 4, 8-1. Game 6, 5-1. So, not every game in a series has to be a tight checking game where you play at your best. What matters is who wins 4 games before the other team. And it doesn't matter that the Jets, did not play well in St. Louis. What matters is how are they going to play tonight? How are they going to show up? And can they replicate the performances from game 1 and 2? I know everyone, who's watched the Jets the last 2 years in the playoffs, might have that fear that, this is happening again. Well, we won't know until the end of the series, and we can discuss. So I am looking forward to seeing the response tonight. And hey, if they play like they've played all season, they will have a pretty solid one and a solid performance, as they've been one of the best teams at home during the regular season.
Yeah, the chat's popping right now. Jared Kronk asking about Eddie Tait. Yes, we will get to the Bombers. Ed's going to join us in and around 2:45 today. We'll talk a lot of hockey. Ed will give us a Bomber perspective on the draft and a recap of all the players selected. I tweeted this out last night. So fired up that the Bombers were able to get Wilfrid Laurier quarterback Taylor Elgersma, and to get him at the 18th pick. I think I said yesterday I would have been fine with them picking him at 6 and then figuring out the best players available in the second round. They ended up getting the guy who was number 1 on John Hodges' mock, on Marshall Ferguson's mock, Connor Shea at 6 overall. Got another linebacker from North Texas at 15, and then picked the Canadian quarterback that has such a big buzz around him with the 18th pick. So we will get to all of that in and around 2:45 today on the program. But I am looking at the chat, and I love it, folks. Yeah, listen, I would respectfully ask that if you are a fatalist or part of the Jets doomsday cult, just sit this one out today. We need positive vibes. We need to be focused on the collective good going into tonight. I know there's been a lot of focus on years past, and there's been a lot of focus on what happened in games 3 and 4, and certainly we will talk about that. But I have no doubt that the people that are forking out the cash to get into the building tonight, to throw the whites on, be part of the whiteout, and get behind the Jets will be bringing it in a very positive nature. And I had a funny conversation last night with somebody about it was about Connor Hellebuyck, and, he was, let's just say that he hadn't yet gotten over the last game and was still sort of on this. And, I'm pointing out, guys, we need to live in, this is about game 5. We heard from Hellebuyck. I need to be better. I will be better. Put on a brave face. And he asked me, the last 2 games at home in game 1 and 2, maybe one of the most memorable things before the game started was the massive MVP chance for Connor Hellebuyck. And I certainly hope tonight in game 5 that chant maybe is even louder before puck drop tonight when Hellebuyck is introduced as the Jets starting goalie. Some great support from the fans. A little reminder of who the best in the world has been all year long. And let's see that Hellebuyck that is going to be a finalist for the Hart Trophy and win another Vezina in the game tonight. And I'm loving the positivity in the chat right now. Miller Time, 1980. Boys have stepped up all season long. This is just the next one, and got to answer the bell. Step up, boys. I also see Jay Miller, Big Gabe, anytime goal. Going to be great to get Gabriel Velarde back. A big boost. Awesome to see Nikolai Ehlers in a non-contact jersey at the morning skate today as well. I still don't think Ehlers is going to be a part of this series, but I'll tell you what, just that is another, I think, boost to the team going into tonight's game, even if Nick won't be. Gabe Vilardi, a huge addition. Joel Kevin said, I'm coming in positive, but they have to prove it to me tonight. I'm very hesitant. Feel like a Leafs fan. LOL. We'll get to the Leafs in a minute. Speaking of having to face down playoff demons. John Cutler, crowd will bring the white out. The boys will get pumped up off that energy. Jets will be focused and can take it. And T. Konopali in his patented all caps, go Jets, go. Finchie Rocco says, no MVP chance for Helly. Let him settle in. Hey, that's exactly what happened in games 1 and 2. I mean, can we just repeat what happened in the 2 home games earlier on this season? Bring the guy out, let him know everyone's behind him and the team, and let the fellas take care of business. Keep on bringing the fan feedback. We'll get to more of that for Fans First a little bit later on today. Remis, I guess the big news is the official return of Gabriel Vilardi tonight, and of course what that means for the lines. Alex Iafallo moving from line 1 to line 2. He'll be out there with Vlad Nemestikov and Cole Perfetti. And we see the reuniting of the Lowry, Appleton, Niederreiter line, which means Tanev's going to be playing with Morgan Barron and Jad on that 4th line. Excited to see what Gabe can do for the top line. But to be honest, the line and the individual that I'm going to be looking at to step up and lead the way for the Winnipeg Jets tonight is the captain, Adam Lowry, and that line that has been so good and so consistent for them all year long with the matchups that Scott Arniel is going to prefer. I want to see that Lowry line exert themselves and show just how important they can and have been to the Winnipeg Jets in a game tonight. And obviously up top, I mean, you hope that some of the better matchups being at home going to loosen up things a little bit for Scheifele and Connor. And let's see that magic that those 3 had at points this season in the most important game that they played all year to date.
Yeah, there's many levels of getting Gabriel Vilardi back. 1, the power play, 2 for 12 in the series. That's not going to get it done. Having him as a weapon down low, gives them so many more options and a chance to be more effective. And at even strength, as you said, reuniting that top line that has been so good all year, a bonus. But also evening out some of the bottom lines and putting back together the line, Niederreiter with Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton. They have chemistry. They've played together. They've shut down other lines and been dominant, and they're going to have a breakout performance tonight. You'd like to see Adam Lowry get back on the score sheet. We remember the playoffs that he had against Vegas, scoring goals. He's been a playoff performer in the past. We haven't seen it from the middle 2 lines this series. It's time for one of them, and maybe having Iafallo with Nemestikov and Perfetti will give them a boost as well. On defense, Logan Stanley gets back in, made a huge impact with the hit on Jordan Kyrou earlier in the series, and to get back to that physical, intimidating play. I mean, that you say he was not effective in that game after that hit. Will we see something like that tonight? So having the home crowd a boost, having Last Change a boost, and someone I posted the comment, posted some Instagram reels today, and someone's like, well, the Jets won't win any games if they are scoring, 1.5 goals a game as they did in St. Louis. I'm like, well,
True.
I'm like, well, what's going to help that? Getting back Gabe Vilardi should give them a nice boost. So a different look Jets lineup tonight than we saw in games 1 to 4.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, it's a huge boost for the power play. And listen, there's no disrespect to Iafallo. Iafallo's been a big part of PP2 all season long. But to get Gabe in that down low presence with everything that he brings to the table, nice boost not only for the top line, but for the Jet power play as well. Now, we'll get to Scott Arniel in a moment, and Cam Janssen's coming up at the bottom of the hour, Reem. But very quickly, what a night in the Stanley Cup playoffs last night. We see the Ottawa Senators go into Toronto. Linus Ullmark shuts out the Leafs. You want to talk about playoff angst, and I know there's been quite a bit of that around the city coming out of the games in St. Louis. Check out what's going on in Leafland right now. They are freaking out. And the Sens, we talked about the St. Louis Blues were leading the series 2-2. Remis sent me a message today. Ottawa is leading the series 2-3. They've grabbed the momentum. all of the pressure is on the Toronto Maple Leafs after that whiff last night at home. We got a game 6 tomorrow in the Battle of Ontario. The Edmonton Oilers, who frankly, I mean, it was incredible that they were tied 2-2 based on how the series had gone so far. They go on the road into LA playing the best home team in the league and absolutely massacre LA. If it wasn't for an all-world performance by Darcy Kemper, that is like an 8-1 game last night. And I said that to Nielsen when we were doing the lock shop, and he looked up, and Mike Kelly, I think the expected goals in that game were actually 8 point something for the Oilers to 1 for the Los Angeles Kings. Just an absolute collapse. Ever since that terrible challenge happened by Jim Hiller, the Oilers have taken over this series. And then last night, and again, if you followed us at the end of the show, I was going with a big underdog parlay last night at Coolbet. I had Ottawa, I had Edmonton, and I had the Minnesota Wild. It was about 16-1, and it was looking very good. 1 minute left. The Minnesota Wild score what looks to be the winning goal by the Rat, Ryan Hartman, of all people. Bruce Cassidy challenges a successful challenge for offside, an absolutely boneheaded move by, I can't remember the player that went offside, completely unnecessary. Cost Minnesota the winner. Brett Howden of Winnipeg scores for the Knights in OT. Vegas wins 3-2. And as disappointed as I was to not cash what would have been a real nice ticket, Remis, it was a real silver lining that the demise of that ticket came on the back of an offside challenge which nullified Rat Hartman and arguably the biggest goal of his career last night. Can't stand that guy. Not a big fan of the Wild. But, man, you had to feel for Wild fans after the way that one went down in Vegas last night. That is a brutal way to lose such an important game.
I didn't feel bad for them. I
know you didn't.
I hate the offside challenge. It is really dumb. It probably shouldn't be around. Waste of time. But I was so happy to see Ryan Hartman's goal and that walking celebration he did totally get wiped out. Again, I was very happy to see it get wiped out and for Vegas to come back in overtime. It is certainly tough for the rest of the team, but if something not nice happens to Ryan Hartman, I'm not going to feel bad for him, Hustlers. So good for Vegas for persevering. It was looking tough for them. We would have been losing at home, going back 3-2 to Minnesota, but they showed that championship pedigree and getting the overtime winner. So credit to Vegas. But that was a weird play where they had a first review on that goal, and they said it was a good goal, right, for goalie interference.
Or they thought he may have kicked it in.
They thought he kicked it in. It bounced on his shin pad, and then they had to challenge. So you had back-to-back reviews, which seems really dumb, having back-to-back reviews, which is why I don't like coaches' challenges to begin with. You're already looking at it. Why do you need to look at it again? Waste of time. I hate offside challenges. We've found out that their refs are pretty good at calling it. And, they worked out for them yesterday, and good for Vegas. And also, the other game, too. I mean, an incredible goaltending performance by Markstrom for New Jersey in that double overtime game. They were in a tough series. A lot of their defensemen injured. Jack Hughes out. They battled. Tough look, giving up a 4-goal lead, but credit to Carolina for coming back. Rod Brind'Amour, 7 straight seasons now, advancing past the first round.
Yeah, listen, the overtime was all Carolina, and at one point the shots were 13-1 in the overtime period. And man, the power play. I mean, New Jersey, all they have to do is look at their special teams. I think they were 0 for 15 on the power play and had allowed a shorthanded goal. And, it almost seemed a fait accompli when Dawson Mercer's stick hit Kotkaniemi in the face. They ruled that it was not a follow-through 4-minute penalty and was going to go one way or the other. The Canes were going to score on that 4-minute power play and win the game, or Jersey was going to find a way. And with about a minute left in that power play, the goal went in. Devils to the golf course. Canes, the first team moving on to the next round in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Tonight's games, I know we're all focused in on the late one here in Winnipeg. We will have Game 5 between the Caps and Canadiens, Habs facing elimination, and Tampa at home facing elimination against the Panthers, 6 o'clock and 6:30 respectively. We'll talk about those games later on when we dive into the Coolbet lines. All right, just before we hear from Scott Arniel, let me thank our friends at Rolly's Transfer for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Family owned and operated for over 60 years. The most trusted name in moving in Manitoba is our friends at Rolly's. If you're moving this summer, head on over to Rollies.com and click on Request an Estimate in the top corner of the page. Great website, by the way. And put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. Then let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to move. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in with the white glove treatment that Rollies is famous for. For all of your moving needs, lean on Rollies, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Find out more, request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. Hopefully this game goes well tonight for the Jets. And tomorrow you will see big smiles of Jet fans, albeit maybe some sleep in their eyes from being up a little late with the late game after a big win. If you want to make that smile look as good as possible, head on over and see Dr. Terry and his great staff at St. Vital Dental Center at 167 St. Anne's. Beautiful new facility, state-of-the-art equipment, free parking conveniently located in the back, and an incredible team of dentists and staff members to make you and your family's dental experience the best it can be, as they've been doing for generations of Winnipeggers in St. Vital for many years. Head on over to stvitalddental.ca. You can find out about all of their services, all the way from checkups and cleanings to things like dental implants. And of course, you can make an appointment to pop in and see Dr. Terry and the gang at St. Vital Dental, 167 St. Anne's at stvitalddental.ca. It's pretty nice outside, and oh my God, do we have a gorgeous weekend coming up. Kind of feeling like it's time to crank out the summer drinks, and our friends at Canadian Club have you set up. This is a great time. Starting tomorrow, special deal throughout the month of May for the new Canadian Club ready-to-drink cocktails. There's 3 flavors, Canadian Club and Ginger Ale. There's the Canadian Club Citrus Smash, which is Canadian whiskey and lemon flavors. And I think what's going to be a huge hit on the golf course this year, the Canadian Club half and half, like an Arnold Palmer, lemonade, iced tea, Canadian whiskey as well. And the entire month of May, the 12 packs are on sale for under $28 at your local Manitoba liquor marts. You'll also be able to get the individual 4 packs with your favorite flavor alone. But right now, get ready for summer. Get ready for what should be a gorgeous weekend. Pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts. Look for Canada's #1 favorite Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club, and the new CC ready-to-drink cocktails. Good to go. And hey, we need a big start tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. No one gets Winnipeg Jet fans started like Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery, your local spot for the best selection, service, and prices in batteries, bar none. 2 locations, Logan Avenue, as well as Dovercourt Drive. Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery allow you to shop local and get the best prices in town on batteries of all makes and models, beating the pants off the big box stores. And they've got the best customer service as well, as they'll deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere in the city of Winnipeg with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. So pop down and see them in store today, or shop online, and Donnie and his crew will bring them to you at manitobabattery.com. All right, Cam Janssen coming up in a couple minutes. Let's hear, though, from Coach Scott Arniel. He spoke after the morning skate today. Here's Arnie on the series, tied at 2, heading into this big one tonight.
Games 1 and 2, we won our games in our building. I don't care how it happened. We won the games in our building. Went down to their building. They beat us twice in their rink. There's lots of parts, lots of pieces of the game that we've kind of looked at in detail. I won't really pass it on to you guys what they are, but at the end of the day, that's what happens when you get into these series. They're making adjustments, we're making adjustments. For us, when it comes to scoring, we need obviously more scoring. We did the last couple of games. We got to get inside a little bit more. We got to make it a little bit more difficult, like we did in game 1 and 2. We made it hard on Bennington, and didn't think we did the same in I thought game 3 we did, and I thought game 4 we got back at it again. So you got to go to those places. Those are the type of goals that are getting scored in this league right now, and those are the greasy ones, the hack and whack, chop deflections. Those are the ones that we need to get.
All right, here's a little bit more from Scott Arniel. Hey, listen, Jets have been the best defensive team in the NHL for 2 years. Their foundation has been elite defending. Here's what Arniel had to say about the need to be better defending in front of Connor Hellebuck tonight.
Yeah, our defending, we have to be better. We're our play, the last 2 compared to the first 2, we limited a lot of those chances, whether they came from the top or whether they came from their goal scorers down low. That's our team defense, and I just think it's something that, it has to go back up another notch. We got loose at times. However, if it looks like it's all coming from the top, they've done made adjustments on it, and we're doing adjustments as well. And so when we defend well, we don't give, whether it's the top or the bottom, we're not giving up opportunities. And I think that's been what we've talked about all year long. When we defend as a group and we're good in that area, we make life difficult for teams. So that's one thing we talked about the last couple of days, being better in our end.
Big boost for the Jets to get Gabriel Velarde back. He'll be skating once again with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. He'll add some pop to the power play. Here's the head coach on how Gabe's return will help the team and hopefully secondary scoring as well.
Well, I like the fact that Gabe's coming in, and that's, that line has been extremely good all year long. So that there's some chemistry there. Moves Al down, moves Nino back. It kind of gets our lines kind of back to looking a little bit closer to what they were. But yeah, I mean, you can call it, you can say that, bad bounce or whatever. You got to go make your own bounces. You got to go make your own breaks. And I think that we're a group that sometimes when we're not attacking inside and, we're not putting pucks from bad angles, we're trying to make the next play instead of doing it yourself. But that line specifically, like, Fetz he's got some great looks, and he's the first that'll say that, but I got to bury them, and that's kind of what everybody. It's this time of year. Secondary scoring is important, and if we can get it tonight, that'll certainly help us go a long way towards moving on in this series.
Ton of pressure on the Jet defense by the Blues in games 3 and 4, and listen, Josh Morrissey has been the leader of the Jet blue line all season long. They'll be looking for a big game from him tonight. Here's Scott Arniel on what Josh Morrissey needs to do to truly put his mark on this series.
Well, obviously there's a big target on him, like any series. There's, he's the elite guy for us back there. But at the same time, is that we've all year long we've stressed our 6 defense that need to be a part of the offense. It's everybody has not just defending. There's things we have to do when we get in the offensive zone or off the rush, them being a part of it. But Josh he's the type of guy that he'll find that space. He'll find that ice, and we like I mentioned, we've looked at some stuff the last couple of days, and hopefully we can find some ice for him to get that shot off, to get that attack, that dive in, dive out, having that motion and the movement, joining the rush. Those are things that that he knows, and he wants to make sure tonight that he's a big part of our offense.
All right. We mentioned earlier Logan Stanley is in. We'll see the same defense pairings as the Jets had in their successful games 1 and 2 on home ice. Here's Arnie on the changes on the blue line for Game 5.
What made you kind of come back to is it just a matter of going back to your Game 1 and 2 lineup back on home ice?
A little bit. Sometimes it's matchups. Sometimes it's being here at home, having that opportunity. I have faith in all RD. We had to use him. We said we were going to have to use him, and put Fleur in there because of his skating ability. So we get a chance to come home here, and we decided that's where we're going to go.
All right, a couple more from the coach before we head down to St. Louis and talk to Cam Janssen. Here's Arniel. It has been a weird schedule. I mean, it seems like it's been forever between games 2 and 3, 3 and 4, and now 4 and 5. Here's Arnie on that and putting back together Nino, Adam Lowry, and Mason Appleton.
Yeah, I think, I'm sure Monty would say he liked the 2 extra days there. So after Game 2, I'm actually was okay with it after Game 4. So it's some things we got to work on, some little bit more things we got to look at. But now it's Now it's every other night, so it's go time. So, yeah, I mean, it's the next game. It's the most important one tonight, and then we'll take it from there.
Scott, what's the biggest advantage to having your identity line back together with Nino going back with Lowry and Appleton?
Well, just the fact that they're a heavy line. You know, whoever they're playing against, they force them to defend all night. They don't play a lot of time on their end of the rink. You know, obviously with their forecheck, with their heaviness going through people, you know, they all get to the net. You know, hopefully they can, like I talked about offensively, about making a little tougher for Bennington to see pucks, you know, those second, third opportunities. So the biggest thing about them is how much zone time, if you go over the course of a season, how much zone time, offensive zone time that they spend, and that's what we need.
All right, now we're going to head down to Cam Janssen in St. Louis right away. Murat coming up in probably 20 minutes or so. But just before we get to St. Louis, here's where you come in, folks. Here's one more from the coach, Scott Arniel, on the impact of the whiteout crowd and home ice advantage tonight.
You know, I think that anytime you're home and every time you make a nice play, you make a big hit, you do something, that crowd is behind us. And they talked about our whiteout and how loud it was, and it was loud in St. Louis, really loud. And again, that's just that home ice advantage. That's what we played those 82 games for. And so I expect our whiteout to be just as loud as it was in 1 and 2. And if it's a little extra lift and a little extra push that drives us towards that victory, that's what we're after.
All right, Cam Janssen coming up on the Jets Blues series, and this segment is brought to you by our friends at KFC Canada. Very excited to bring KFC Canada, a Winnipeg fan favorite, on as a playoff partner on Winnipeg Sports Talk. KFC Canada is an official partner of the Winnipeg Jets and is committed to providing Jets fans a delicious game day experience with exclusive finger-licking good promotions we're proud to bring to the Canada Life Centre. On Jets game days, which is today, of course, KFC Canada is giving away their Big Crunch chicken sandwich for just $4.95 at participating Winnipeg KFC locations to help Jet fans enjoy the game with a big hit. And of course, if you're at the game tonight, you'll be able to get the great finger-licking good taste of KFC chicken fingers, fries at various concessions throughout Canada Life Centre. So grab yourself a Big Crunch on the way to the game or as you get ready for this late night start. And again, great to have KFC Canada on board with us. Now let's get to it with Cam Janssen on Jets Blues tonight. All right, let's head down to St. Louis and welcome in Cam Janssen, half of the Cam Strick podcast with Andy Strickland and a Blues radio broadcaster. Cam, it's great to have you on the program. We got a big one tonight. This really does feel like this could decide the series one way or the other, albeit knowing that no one will be eliminated tonight.
Yeah, you know what? It could go either way. I'm curious to see how this goes. I'm curious to see how Winnipeg responds to the last two games. It's not easy playing up there. The Blues know it. I think the pressure is on Winnipeg more than the Blues. I think if you look at the Blues right now, their year has been successful. If they lost the next two games, I think people are going to be happy in St. Louis. I don't know if I could say that for the Winnipeg Jets fan base, but I think the Blues are kind of just going into this game like, let's go win a hockey game and see what happens. So I think the pressure's more on Winnipeg, but there's certainly some pressure in St. Louis for people that have to work the next day, that have to, sit there and watch these games that are kind of late at night.
Oh, tell me about it. I mean, the 8:52 puck drop isn't fun for anyone, but hey, that is life in the Central Division, and you'd rather be in that game than watching it, like Utah or the some of the other teams that aren't in it right now. Let me ask you this, Cam. Two really, really tight games that the Jets were able to win in a fashion that they really had done all season long at home. The games in St. Louis look very, very different. I mean, from your perspective, what was it about the Blues that changed things? And what did you see different in the Jets in games 3 and 4 from what they were able to do at home?
I think they slowed down the Jets in the neutral zone. When they were on their 12-game winning streak, watching these guys live, doing radio, watching every second of every shift that they play, you're like, these guys, the Blues were shutting everybody down in the neutral zone, man. Like, if you're a player on the opposite side, these games that you play enough games, you understand how teams slow you down. It's miserable. They shut you down at the blue line. They don't let you get anything going in the offensive zone. And that's what the Blues are doing really well. And they were playing physical, too. And Jordan Binnington made some big-time saves. Connor Hellebuyck didn't at times. You know, he stood his ground. They need to play a little bit better in front of him. But in every aspect, the Blues have slowed Winnipeg down, including the top line with Scheifele and Connor.
You know, we've kind of said that this game in particular for Winnipeg might be the biggest gut check this group has ever had. You know, you've got a group that's been together for a long time, that's had two really ugly visits to the playoffs against Vegas and Colorado. And listen, you win the President's Trophy, it comes with some big expectations. I'm with you. I think there is more pressure on the Winnipeg Jets, but if you want to be a championship team, you have to answer to pressure. Like, let me ask you this: as a former player and a guy that's been there, you think that like as bad as it went in St. Louis, you've got that extra day off, 2 days. Where do you think the heads are of both teams coming in? Do you feel the Blues are playing with house money? I mean, they seem to be in it to win it. And how do you feel like the Jets are dealing with what's going on before the bright lights are on at 8:52 this evening?
Well, I would say it's completely different scenarios. The Blues are like, we weren't even considered to make the playoffs until we went on a monster run. And now we have these young kids that are coming up, Snuggerud and Bolduc and all these guys that are performing all year long. You know, you squeak into the playoffs. Like, everything's like, okay. Like, the Blues fans in this town are going to spend money on season tickets next year. They want to see these young kids. The Blues are going to make money off of, the last two games at home. You know, I think the Blues are in a different situation. If they lose the next 3 games, 2 games to Winnipeg, I think still it's a successful season. Now you look at Winnipeg, I'm sure the guys in the locker room are hiding from the media. They don't want to look at social media. They don't want to read anything. They're probably like, shut everything down. We have to win. There's a lot more on the line. We gotta win with this core group. The Blues won 5 years ago. They Blues fans have gone through this for 50 years. They were thinking the exact same way Winnipeg fans are thinking right now until it happens. But Connor Hellebuyck has to be better. The top line has to be better. They got to get better secondary scoring against the St. Louis Blues and find a way to win some games. But the pressure's on Winnipeg, that's for sure.
Cam, you spent plenty of time in front of the net when you were out on the ice. It seems like that maybe if you want to break down the series, it's been who's been controlling the blue paint. Winnipeg did it very well in games 1 and 2 at home, and that seemed to completely flip. When the puck drops tonight, how closely will you be watching what's happening in front of the goaltenders as the battle within the game?
I will be watching that. The coaching staff will be watching that. Everybody up top's going to be watching that too. Everybody that's really dissecting the game is going to be saying, who's getting in front and how are we getting shots from the point in front? That's how these goals are being scored. And every single series, it's always a shot from the blue line. What happened last night in Carolina at the end of the game? I know they kicked it wide, but there's always just traffic in front. Guys just throw pucks on that. You find a way to get in front of these goalies that are standing on their head. That's the only way to score on them. Now, I don't know if Stanley's going to be in the lineup or not. That's a tough loss not to have him just clearing guys out. Tyler Tucker got injured the other day. I thought he's been playing fantastic, scored a big-time goal. He's so strong to where he could get these guys out in front of the net without taking a penalty. That is a big deal to be able to do that as a defenseman. And people always ask a cliche, go to the hard areas. Well, it's not easy to go in front of the net when you got guys that are cross-checking you and they know where to hurt you, underneath the pads and whatnot. So I'll be looking at that right off the bat, and the coaching staff certainly will, because that's how hockey games are won, right there in front.
Yeah, no, I think we will see Stanley for Winnipeg, and it looks like Suter's coming back into the lineup. And just thoughts on the challenge for Suter, because it didn't go, great for him in the first 2 games. But this is a guy with almost 1,500 games in the league. He certainly has the experience to play in a game like this.
For sure. I think he's getting paid by two other different teams too. So he knows he's okay. He's going to be okay. But no, I think Tyler Tucker just got in there and outplayed him too. It's a good thing to have some competition. And listen, Ryan Suter's 40 years old. At the beginning, when the Blues signed him, he was playing like 22 minutes a night on the top pairing. Then we got some more depth. You got Cam Fowler. He slid down a little bit and was able to retain some energy, but he's really good at that.
Try and sit her in practice. He's so sneaky and wily. He knows how to go in the corner, not use any contact, but make a little stick play and strip you of the puck without getting hit or causing any kind of contact to where he's damaging his body. He's a smart player, but he understands the game. And Tyler Tucker, unfortunately, gets hurt. He's going to be back in it, and I'm sure he's going to be playing pretty well. But I've never seen him get hit like he did. I think it was game 1 where he was getting rocked. And he's so wily and sneaky. I haven't seen that too much in the regular season. But Winnipeg, man, they got some big, tough guys. And that Adam Lowry come down, he'll get you. As long as Adam stays out of the box, I think he's going to be disruptive.
Cam, we focus in on Robert Thomas, of course, Cam Fowler, who's been big offensively, Pavel Buchnevich. Is there a player or two on the Blues side that's sort of been an unsung hero so far in this comeback through the last couple of games in your mind?
I would say, well, Tucker would be the one guy, but he got injured. He keeps plays alive. I know Philip Broberg, who's been not great offensively, but the Blues were at their best when their D were active. When their D were active in the offensive zone, when they went through that 12-game winning streak, their D were so active. It was so hard for other teams to get the puck out of the zone. They kind of went away from that in the first 2 games. So the D collectively, as a group, being active in the offensive zone, keeping pucks alive, and really wearing down other teams, that's where they're at their best. So I'm going to throw out their D. I mean, Jordan Bennington's been great. Let's be honest here. He just finds ways. He finds ways to come up big. You know what I mean? He's so calm and cool. He meditates. Who knows what he's got in his, they got this Jobu character in their locker room. They find ways to kind of just relax and get away from all the crap and just settle down and play hockey. And as a goalie, you certainly want your goal to be able to find that Zen mode. And if you ever talk to Jordan Bennington, and he'll tell you about all the stuff that he does. And I kind of look at it man, I'm kind of a high-wired dude. I might need to do that as well, just driving my car around. So the Blues, they have to play well as a team, man. They're not that deep as far as high-end scoring. You got Robert Thomas, you got Jordan Kyrou, but you got a lot of other guys that complement everybody. And they just need to collectively come together and put on another show like they did the last 2 games, and they're going to be in good shape.
The goaltending matchup. Tonight, listen, Connor Hellebuck is on somewhat of the hot seat. It's hilarious. I mean, the guy's going to win another Vezina, might win a Hart, wins the first 2 games, and now all the attention is on him. Binnington, on the other side, hasn't won in Winnipeg since 2021. The goaltending matchup, as much as everything else, is probably what people will talk. But in your opinion, how much is what is happening in front of the goaltenders dictating what's really happening as far as goals that are going in the net?
I remember watching at the beginning of the year in front of Jordan Bennington, even last year. I mean, you got guys like Kyrou that was I think they were dash 30 last year, minus 30. You're dash 30. You're in every single opportunity on the ice. You're getting a ton of ice time, and he was dash 30 because he wasn't doing enough defensively. What is he this year? Plus 20? What a difference that is. That just shows you your main player has a 50-point, whatever you want to call it, deficit. You went from minus 30 to plus 18 or whatever the case is. That is gigantic. What does that mean? That just means you're doing so much differently in the defensive zone. You're picking guys' sticks. You're stopping on pucks. You're more, worried about the defensive play instead of finding your cookies offensively. And he still was able to score how many goals? Just 30 goals this year and have a great offensive year. But he did the little things on the back end. And I think collectively, when your big dogs do that, everybody else jumps on board. So, yeah, man, you need to work hard in front of your goalie. You need to clear out the front of the net. They have to be able to see things. I don't care how good you are. Marty Brodeur, Dominic Hasek, I don't give a damn. If they can't see the pucks are going in. Clear the front of the net. That goes for both teams tonight. So, listen, the front battles tonight are going to be a huge aspect. I can't wait to see how both teams play that.
I think the atmosphere in the building is going to be incredible, as it's been in all 4 games of this series before. And Whoever wins tonight is going to have a real stranglehold on this one going forward. Cam, just before we go, fill people in on what you and Andy have cooking over at Cam Strick. It's playoff time, best time of the year.
Yeah, baby. Cam Strick, we just had Kenny Danico on. I know the Devils lost last night, but we get into all kinds of stuff with him. We like to dig deep into personal stuff with guys that kind of want to let it out. You know, he had some demons in his life that we kind of got into. We all went through that, man. I'm open about that stuff. So Andy and I always get great guests on, and check out the Kenny Danico on. If you just want to go look at all the guests we've had a bunch, and we got plenty more coming, man. Every single week, Cam Strick podcast. Check it out. It's rated R. By the way, it's rated R. By the way, so don't get mad at me when I'm throwing F-bombs out.
Yeah, playing it with the kids on the way to drop them off at school.
Yeah, I'm not catering. Sorry, I'm not catering to kids, man. Once they get old enough, they can listen. But I'm not catering to your 8-year-old.
Cam, great stuff, buddy. Love the pod and really appreciate you jumping on. Should be a great one tonight and then Friday in the Lou. You have a great day and enjoy this one tonight. Get that nap in before the 8:50 start.
Nap. I'll get a 3-hour nap in, baby. I don't have kids, man. It might be even 4 hours. Hey, sorry about the audio, guys. I love you guys up there, man. We'll see you guys soon.
All right, appreciate Cam jumping on today. What a beauty he is. Definitely, if you haven't already, check out the Cam and Strick podcast. Hockey fans will love it. Hey, want to thank Sean and Let's Do It Travel for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Great to have Sean on board with us. And listen, gang, we all know that whether you're doing a sports trip or you're looking ahead to next year with your precious vacation time and feeling the pressure to make a great decision to max out your travel dollar and give yourself a very well-earned, amazing time away from home. Let's Do It Travel can help you with that. Bottom line is that a lot of times people make decisions based solely on a price they see on the internet, and it can come back to bite them. And to have the professional expertise of people like WST or Sean and Let's Do It Travel can really help you stretch that travel dollar fuller and make your vacation the best as possible. And I'll tell you what, if you are planning a destination wedding, I think it is a must-do to lean on some people with some experience because you're not getting that one back, folks. Head on over to the Let's Do It Travel Instagram at Let's Do It Travel WPG, or check them out online at letsdoittravel.com. Sean's got some great articles up there, including for anyone that might be thinking about a last-minute trip down to St. Louis for game number 6. And here's the kicker. Let's Do It Travel is waiving their booking fees for WST listeners. Just let Sean know that we sent you. You got a buddy in the travel business with Let's Do It Travel. Get in touch today. Instagram at Let's Do It Travel WPG. Give them a follow there and check them out online at letsdoittravel.com. Well, Whiteout Mania continues, and it is going to get ramped up big time tonight. 8:30, a little later than that for actual puck drop. Of course, the Winnipeg Jet fans are going to be done up in the all in white supporting their team. And you can pop by your local Princess Auto and pick up free Whiteout Mania yard, office, and lawn signs at any of the 3 Princess Autos in town, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon as well. And don't forget, winnipegjets.com/whiteoutmania. Still taking submissions. Hopefully this playoff run's going to keep on rolling. There'll be more chances to win tickets to be a part of the Whiteout when you put your Whiteout Mania submissions in at the Winnipeg Jets website. Of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsor of WST, our sporting community, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the Jets, and of course, the home of the Bombers, Princess Auto Stadium. And we'll be talking Bombers a little later on after last night's CFL Draft, coming up with Eddie Tait. I am looking forward to getting out to Aikens. It is going to be it always is, highlight of my summer, getting to Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. And if you're thinking about maybe changing up your travel plans for this year, maybe not going south of the border, keep it Canadian, why not stay in Manitoba? Aikens Lake, you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg with world-class fishing and even more world-class hospitality from the Terrence and the Aikens team. So get on over, find out more on the 2025 fishing season at aikenslake.com. And make sure to check out their socials at Aikens Lake as well. And hey, gang, I know there'll be a lot of white suits done up for the game tonight. If you need a new suit, white or otherwise, our boys at F Apparel can handle you. Winnipeg's #1 spot for custom men's clothing. Custom suits starting at $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom suits, the best in menswear accessories, and 2 great promos on right now. If you've got a 2025 grad in the family that needs a new suit, pop in. F Apparel will hook them up with a free shirt and tie with the purchase of any suit. And of course, they've got an amazing discount program for wedding parties. So guys, if you want to get a great looking suit for the big day that you can wear beyond the wedding day, make sure to talk to F Apparel, get that discount, and get the boys fitted up and looking great for the big day when you do it up at F Apparel. 190 Smith Street downtown. Check out all the promos and more online. That's EPHapparel.com. And you'll be able to make your, get it all done right there. Of course, you can make an appointment to come in for a fitting as well over at AikensLake.com. All right. I know there's lots of excitement about the Bomber draft picks. And Tait's going to join us later on in hour 2 of the program. We're also going to head out to Ottawa to check in with AJ Jakubec. But coming up right now, we will enjoy our weekly visit with Murat before this huge Game 5. This segment is brought to you by your Prairie Toyota dealers. And your Prairie Toyota dealers want to remind you to get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. Quality that means it has the strength to take on any challenge, off-road or hauling a heavy load, and it's backed by the peace of mind knowing it's a Toyota. So take the road less traveled in comfort, room for teammates, friends, and gear. And you'll be turning heads as well because this is an amazing looking truck, the new Toyota Tundra. And anywhere it goes, you'll be turning heads. From $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.19% APR with $66.99 down. Hybrid available as well. Find out more and visit shoptoyota.ca. All right, let's welcome in Murat of The Athletic as we count down to the late night puck drop. Murat, what's going on? How are you, my friend?
I am doing well. I'm ready for whatever comes next. I got my flights booked for Game 6. Life is good one way or the other. I'm fired up. And I've talked to so many Jets fans already today. I think the hearts are palpitating out there in Jets Nation. So let's go, Huss. What do we got?
I'm with you. It was funny hearing Scott Arniel say that, he thought Monty probably appreciated the extra day between 2 and 3. He did between 4 and 5 for the Winnipeg Jets. And I'm sure you got this from fans. Listen, there is some scar tissue there, and it took a little bit to get over the disappointment of the way things went in St. Louis, especially game number 4. You had to chew on that thing for 9 hours, basically, before going to bed. That was the worst part of the Sunday game. It was so early. But as the week has gone, we've heard from the Winnipeg Jets. This is a time to realize that this is still a 2-2 series. As Connor Hellebuck said, the Winnipeg Jets have home ice advantage. They've been great all season long at home, and now it's time to step up and show it. From my perspective, Murat, maybe the biggest gut check this team has had as a group, certainly in the last number of years.
A gut check that's 3 years in the making. This is change an era of Winnipeg Jets time. They missed the playoffs. They all called each other out. They were so unhappy. 2022, right? They missed. And then so they go out and hire Rick Bowness. He goes out, talks to his leadership group, changes the leadership group, pulls that captaincy away from Blake Wheeler. They buy him out eventually. They move on from Pierre-Luc Dubois. The Bowness era goes from no pushback to pushback, but they got dominated against Colorado. And now Scott Arniel's team, President's Trophy winners, home ice advantage, they're pointing to that hard as an advantage now, heading into the best of 3 to determine round 1. But every single year has been just a little bit of a step forward. And if it's been worth anything, they're going to find a way to show it in these next 3 games or just 2, one way or the other. This is go time for this era of the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, I don't think it's hyperbole, and I don't think it's an overstatement that this is a test, as you said, 3 years in the making. And we're going to learn a lot about what this team is made of and capable of tonight. And listen, this is not to say that win, they're great, lose, they stink. because there's a hell of a good hockey team on the other side, Murat, that you saw in person raise their level of play significantly while the Jets took a bit of a step back in those games 3 and 4. Listen, before we talk about what needs to happen and what you're looking for tonight on the ice once the puck drops, you've been back from St. Louis. You've been around the team for the last number of days. We heard from Connor Hellebuck earlier. We've heard from more players through the week. How would you describe the feeling around the Winnipeg Jets? And has it changed at all from Monday as opposed to today at the morning skate going into tonight?
Well, my most striking observation, I think, comes from the conversation I had most recently. And that was, while those scrums were happening today with Perfetti and, Niederreiter, I spoke to Josh Morrissey at length, just the two of us at his stall. And if I have to choose a word to characterize it, it is calm. It is absolutely calm. His heart rate did not seem to be elevated. The tone of conversation was really just gentle, thoughtful. I think that as somebody who I sort of look to as a pulse of the team, wearing the letter like he does, being such an important member of the team as he is, I thought Josh Morrissey was just calm before the storm, perhaps. But I did not sense panic. I did not sense defensiveness or testiness. I asked him what the best way to frame this best of 3 was. And then I also asked him, Huss, well, what if you win? What if you lose? What's the best way to frame the 2 games that come next? And he said, respectfully, Murat, I have a job to do today. I'm focused on game 5. And, let's keep our focus there. And there was no defensiveness in that either. It was just calm control of the moment. And if we're going strictly on vibes, I was encouraged by that mood of talk from one of the Jets leaders.
Yeah. Morrissey is, I love the way you put that. I mean, he is in some ways sort of a more quiet spokesman for the team. And I think, being here through all of this, excuse me, has a pretty good feeling and read of the psyche of the team. And I've been saying all week, I mean, we're going to find out a lot about this group, how they're able to come together, how they're able to bounce back. And we've seen it in great examples of it all season long. But as we all know, there is another level to Stanley Cup playoff action. And, listen, to the St. Louis Blues credit, they showed that in a big way in game 3 and game 4. And it's funny you bring up Morrissey because I think he's going to be an absolutely huge part of this game tonight, looking to get more out of him and hopefully contributing to some offense. Mark Scheifele, it goes without saying, leading that top line. We'll get to the return of Gabriel Velarde in a minute. But I'm also looking at Adam Lowry tonight. And this is not to say that, he hasn't been good, but getting Nino Niederreiter back on that line, that has been the identity line. That has been sort of the start of the foundation of the way the Winnipeg Jets play. If they could generate some offense, that would be great. But dictating the way that the game will be played when they're on the ice, I think is key. And I think it's big to get Nino back on that line, that comfortable unit that has done so many good things over the last number of years in a game with so much on the line.
Well, it may be the best shutdown line in hockey. And part of that is not every team has a dedicated shutdown line. It's a bit of an old school concept. Another part of that would be because they dominated most of the season. There was a stretch towards the second half where they came off it for a few games there. But if you go by the amount of time they spent in other teams' zones, you go by the amount of goals they scored, the tiny amount of goals that was given up when they were on the ice, it was a complete flow of play dominance. And then they probably even got more goals. Like I think the score was something like 24-13 when they were on the ice. I better check my own article to get those numbers right. But it was a destruction in terms of goals based on what was positive flow of play metrics. And when Arniel talks about the return of Velarde or the changes to the lineup, he always talks about the ripple effect of it. For me, there's rarely a situation when one player's return snaps 3 lines into place, and Niederreiter's return to Lowry and Appleton, the way that they play, the way they hold pucks on the outside, the way that they can get pucks to the inside and be dedicated, that is perhaps, it's not the biggest storyline of Velarde's return, but it's pretty darned close. And Huss, I'll go there. I'll say Adam Lowry needs to be better. I don't think that his penalty on Tyler Tucker was the finest moment of his career, and he's a leader on this team, one of the best two-way players that there is. I think that there is a level he can get to, ideally with Niederreiter and Appleton on his line.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm with you, and I think we can say the same thing about Appleton, and we can say the same thing about Niederreiter. We can say the same thing pretty much about the entire middle six. It was Scheifele and Connor that were providing the offense early on. They had their hands full, to say the least. Maybe you can speak to that with the challenges that they had in Game 3 and 4. But they've got a couple goals from the fourth line. And I think the fourth line will look as good as it has at any point with Brandon Tanev moving back. But it's hard to put all of the offensive weight on Connor and Scheifele's shoulders, even with Velarde coming back. And, to be honest, I think the success of line 2 and line 3 is going to be a huge part of dictating whether the Jets are up 3-2 or facing elimination when they get on that plane.
100%. You're getting, what does Kyle Connor have? 3 goals in 4 games? Like, you're getting 5 points each from Scheifele and Connor. They're producing. There was a moment, I don't even think about Game 3. That was St. Louis's game. They dominated that. But there's a moment in Game 4 where you might believe in Winnipeg's ability to come out with a 3-1 lead instead of heading back to Winnipeg 2-2. And you got some of that old school iffy coverage from Scheifele and Connor. And you can say that they need to be better because they were chasing some offense to try to seal that game away from Winnipeg, and they gave some stuff up. But I have a hard time picking on them too strongly because they're also the only 2 guys who are scoring with any consistency. If Winnipeg gets, it's Scheifele and Connor at 5 points each, and then it's a 5-way tie for 2 points is the next highest Winnipeg Jets scorer, that's not good enough. And that's the sort of situation that gets your star players chasing offense as well. So they need to be better, but Winnipeg will be a whole lot safer and sounder and in a better position if the middle six shows up, not just in terms of flow of play, but on the score sheet. And there's so many zeros. I wrote about it this week. Nemestikov, Niederreiter, Lowry's goal isn't into an empty net. Appleton has 2 assists. One of those is on that empty net goal. This is a group of middle six forwards that should be Winnipeg's advantage against anybody in the NHL, and they haven't put pucks in nets nearly often enough.
Murat, there has been so much made of the goaltending matchup, and I think Scott Arniel said it pretty succinctly. Our guy was better in Game 1 and 2, and their guy was better in Game 3 and 4. We heard from Hellebuyck on Monday, which doesn't often happen during a series, but with the extra couple days off, he met the media and said he needs to be better and he will be better. You've been around him. What do you make of this goaltending battle? And listen, it was 2 pretty rough games for Hellebuyck, but that's 2 games in a body of work of a season that has been historically good. That being said, a ton of pressure on 37 coming into tonight. Just thoughts on where he's at right now, what the Jets are going to need from him, but also at the same time, what this team can do to help him out a little bit more, because I think we've seen a lot more go in that, in situations that frankly weren't very commonplace throughout the regular season.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going into this, and at the end of the day, the number one story is Hellebuyck needs to deliver more than he has, especially in Game 3 and Game 4. I thought there were parts of Game 4 where he looked good and Winnipeg looked good, and then there's that paddle decision on the goal where Dylan Sandberg falls, Braden Shen ends up scoring, but Connor Hellebuyck was never going to stop that play with one hand on his stick, reaching across and trying to stop Shen from driving across the ice. And then he ended up looking quite small in his net when that puck went in. I just don't think that is, acceptable from the best goaltender in the world.
The only one thing, just quickly on that, Murat, I had way more of an issue with the Tucker goal that put them up 2-1 than that one. The way I read that play was that Shen was basically coming in all by himself. He was able to stop him and hold him up. My question was, where the hell was everybody else on that play? The first time Braden Shen got touched in that offensive zone was when his teammates were mobbing him after he'd scored.
That's a great line. There's a lot of breakdowns that go into that moment, and you have a horrid track back from Kyle Connor. You have Mark Scheifele lost in that backtrack as well. They had went with those 2 guys towards the end of the PK to try to generate offense after it. That clearly didn't work. And then Dylan Sandberg blew a tire. At the same time, I don't think that one-handed paddle situation is is a great bet in any situation. So I'm a little more critical, I guess, of the goalie. It is true. Your point is that a lot of things went wrong on that goal. For me, the Tucker one through traffic a little bit. I don't know to what degree Tanev towards the point got in Hellebuck's sightlines, but that's the one where Morrissey and his man are kind of going right in front of Hellebuck's eyes as that shot comes in. And for me, I did a freeze frame of the moment of release. And at that moment, you've got both Morrissey and the other Blues forward in front of the net blocking Hellebuck's sightlines. It's not just a flyby. I think it's hard to believe Hellebuck saw that. And for me, that's one of the biggest stories, is that Hellebuck isn't seeing things. That's an area that the Jets can help him out quite a bit with by winning those box out situations earlier, well in advance of the shot release. That's something that needs to be better. And it's also been put to me, and Jesse Granger and I wrote about this at The Athletic, why are these struggles happening? Why are these distance shots beating him? And one of the reasons that Jesse Granger identified, and we put some clips together, is, well, he's actually playing a little bit lower in his net, particularly on point shots and shots from range. And when those shots come in, you get a worse angle on saving them if you're playing deeper in your net trying to find the puck. And that's been a problem. So I don't know if that's something Hellebuck is specifically keying in to fix tonight. He did say nobody has studied goaltending more than he has in the world, which rubbed me the wrong way. But then I listened to everything else he had to say, and I thought that it was a balanced approach overall, despite the hubris of that statement.
As far as the blue line goes, just thoughts on, the reinsertion of Stanley. I think Stanley and Schenn were good in the first couple of games. And to me, they were very key in the Jets having the advantage in the blue paint. The coaches have talked about this throughout the series. Montgomery said that the Jets owned the front of the net in games 1 and 2. And we really did see that flip in games 3 and 4. I mean, you touched on this a little bit about the early box outs, but, from a defensive unit, 1 to 6, where do the Winnipeg Jets have to get better, both to help themselves in their own end, but also getting it out of that end to the players and putting it in an area where Winnipeg can actually do some scoring as opposed to defending?
Yeah, I mean, both of those players can be better as well. As of before heading into last night's games, Luke Schenn was tied for the most minor penalties in all of the playoffs, and Stanley had one fewer minor penalty than he did. So that is an issue. They were part of Winnipeg's success in games 1 and 2, and they contributed to that. Loved Stanley's hit on Jordan Kyrou. That was a really exciting moment for the Jets. For me, the way that the Blues have taken over is more about how they're escaping Winnipeg's coverage in the corners and along the walls. In game 3, they had a ton of success. If they were getting trapped in the corner because Jets defensemen were outnumbering them and pinning them to the walls, they had ways to whip the puck around the boards to a defenseman on the far side, waiting for that puck. And then they had all sorts of time and space at the top of the zone to load the cannon, and then everybody was going to the net. In game 4, they added another wrinkle to that, and they had different routes to get to the puck to the net with traffic because the Jets had made an adjustment of their own to match the Blues adjustment. Like, this is a bit of a cat and mouse game in Winnipeg's defensive zone. Specifically in the slot, I trust Schenn and Stanley to make those box outs, especially Schenn based on his veteran experience. He's done it for longer and at a higher level. But I think Schenn in particular, when DeMello was out, looked slow, made giveaways that led to goals against, and was part of that second best coverage, I would say, in Winnipeg's zone. So I don't think it's as simple as they're back together and they've had good results and that fixes things. I think that there's still ways in which the Blues are picking apart the Jets in Winnipeg's end. But then we just spoke to Scott Arniel, and he says he spent a few days on this and really believes in what Winnipeg is going to be able to do in Game 5 to right that ship too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Game 3 was a nightmare for Luke Schenn between the penalties and, that one play that happened in the end where he just got crushed. And then, I mean, the guy can take a hit, no big deal, but to lose the puck that way and have it end up in your net, I mean, I think it just sort of spoke to everything that was happening at that point in the game for the Winnipeg Jets. Talked a lot about in front of the goaltenders and what the defense can do. How crucial, Murat, is going to be the battle in the neutral zone tonight. Both of these teams, when they're on, seem to make it very, very difficult for their opponents to make it through the neutral zone and gain zone entries with any sort of speed or consistency. Is it an understatement to say that this game may, in fact, sort of be won or lost in between the blue lines?
I mean, I've never found a way to make neutral zone play like sound exciting and thrilling for folks. Like when I write about it, it's one of the things people engage with a bit less, but it might be the single most important thing in this series. Like if you could hack hockey and just fix one thing, getting across the blue line more often than the other team, that's an enormous thumb on the scale. And who's going to win this game? And when Winnipeg has controlled play against St. Louis, there have been times where St. Louis can't get a sniff of Winnipeg's zone because the track back is so good. The gap is so good. There are things that just, when Winnipeg has leaned on St. Louis, the Blues haven't been able to get into the Jets zone. And it's been the same in the opposite direction. One of the best things that Winnipeg did coming out of Game 3 and into Game 4, they spent time on their entries in their practice at St. Louis that I was at. They spent time on their entries, a little bit of a wrinkle in terms of how they got the puck up the ice. And then in Game 4, why they were able to have success earlier in the game was because they were transitioning the puck really well. And I asked Scott Arniel about this again today, and he said that was something that they liked out of their Game 4, is how well that they transitioned the puck. And then they're going to need to do it better again today. So for me, you're exactly right to say we talk about the blue paint all of the time. We talk about in front of the net. Well, how do you get there? You need to have the puck in the offensive zone in a good spot. And how do you do that? You enter the zone successfully with possession, and then you get moving. And I think that that's something that Winnipeg was really quite bad at in Game 3, and the Blues were amazing at denying it. The Jets got better in Game 4, and who wins tonight might be a battle of who wins the neutral zone.
You've talked and given a lot of credit to both coaches with what they've been doing, adjustments and kind of, playing the chess match, if you will, from the bench. The Jets do get Gabe Vilardi back, and they have last change. Are there matchups you think Scott Arniel is going to be preferring tonight when he gets to decide who he's going to be matching up with, who Monty's sending over the boards?
Yeah, it's tough for me because so much of the Blues offense has actually come from the blue line and from set plays and from breakouts and things like that, where I'm not saying I still, after all these games and all the success that the Blues had in Game 3 and 4, I'm not looking at Kyrou or Thomas and saying this is the number one threat. They're both good. Both of those lines are good. I think probably Robert Thomas is the one you would like to get to Lowry a little bit more and then have Scheifele go, whether it's against Kyrou or even to get away from the top six entirely. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. I think that the advantage is going to be in key moments, D-zone draws, situations where momentum has been building up, or coming out of TV timeouts, all these different situations where you might, if you had a last change, throw out your number one offensive guns. Well, now Lowry's ready and they can respond to that and just be more efficient with how often the Blues' best lines at least have Lowry's line on the ice, and maybe Scheifele's as well. I still think one of the keys to this series is Scheifele's line being better than whoever they play against. And maybe I'm losing a bit of their defensive lapses and just being too kind to my faith in their offense. But I think whoever you give them, they should be able to win. And if you're the Winnipeg Jets, you should be able to bet on that, or else what are we doing here? I think that they're good enough for it.
I'm really interested to see what Gabe Vilardi can do to help the team push this thing forward. This is not an easy situation to come back into. I mean, being out for whatever is 4+ weeks and to get dropped into an incredibly high stakes Game 5 in a series like this with the physicality. But that is the situation for Vilardi. How big of a help do you think he can be? I mean, we've talked about the trickle down, but specifically Vilardi on that top line, and as well the power play, Murat, which special teams has not been an advantage for Winnipeg, and that has been something that has kind of been their bread and butter all year.
Yeah, cruising it is at 16.7% on the power play after a year spent flirting with 30% during the regular season. That's an enormous deal. I've written this. I wrote this today. It's at The Athletic, but I really believe if you're going to call any one of the 5 skaters on Winnipeg's power play the quarterback, It's not Mark Scheifele, even though almost everything runs through him. It's Gabriel Vilardi beside the net. I think of Scheifele as the guy who's snapping it to the QB, and now Vilardi's got options. He's got Connor across the ice. He's got Perfetti in the pop position in the slot. He can go back to Mark Scheifele, and he can look for Josh Morrissey as well. And he's also got, of course, at least a couple of different ways of attacking the net himself. I think the number of options on Winnipeg's power play that can genuinely hurt a team go up exponentially by adding Gabriel Vilardi back to that spot. Obviously, the Blues will be ready for it. Obviously, they'll have their ideas about how to handle that, but that's an awful lot of size, skill, and quick thinking. And I have to believe that Vilardi can make a difference on the power play. Watching him at practice, the one thing that has never left, even as he's been ramping up to get back into the lineup, is his hands. His hands have been so quick from day one he got back on the ice, even when he wasn't shooting 100% and all that other sort of stuff. So beside the net, like he'll be on the power play, assuming the Jets can get themselves some power plays, that's a game changer for me. Other than that, as long as he's good to go, which he is, thrown to that top line, it's going to be his job to win pucks on the walls and hold them there, and then use his vision like he has done so many times to just find his line mates in good spaces. More than most, that line likes to hold the puck on the outside and then make a well-timed play into the middle as opposed to starting the play in the middle. And I think Vilardi and Scheifele see eye to eye on that. They've talked about that before, and you just have to lean on the chemistry. The trickle down comes after that. We've talked about it, but Vilardi really can't be a passenger tonight. It's a tough ask, but that's the one. That's the one he's got to deal with.
Murat, before we go, there is, unless we can't ignore it. I don't think the players will be either. There's a lot of pressure on this team in this game, considering the way the series has turned. I didn't particularly like the first. I hated the start in Game 3. And even though in Game 4, I think the first period was generally carried by Winnipeg, the first 2 minutes or so was a little sketchy. My question to you for tonight, in front of the whiteout, considering the stakes as they are, how important is those first 2, 3, 4 minutes, and what are you going to be looking for right off of the puck drop when we get going tonight at 8:52?
Yeah, it's tough. Even in Jets wins, and even like you said, when they've controlled most of the first period, those first few shifts have been Blues, have been all Blues. Even in Game 2 when the Jets won, the Jets gave up a whole bunch of chances in the first couple of minutes there. That's a troubling trend. To see it 4 times in a row, even if it's been interrupted, even if Winnipeg's gotten things together, that's a problem. And I don't know. At this point, I just begin to have faith in Jim Montgomery and his team to find a way to take those first few minutes of the hockey game. So for me, Winnipeg needs to weather it. They need to be able to get out of it without a goal against. Nothing for free. Nothing to make St. Louis's life easier. They've made some giveaways to start games. They've certainly given up goals, and you can point at coverage or goaltending or screens as you like. All that sort of stuff. That simply can't happen. Winnipeg is a wagon when they're up. If the Jets can get up 1 or 2 goals, you look at the analytics, you look at the flow of play, they're one of the hardest teams, the hardest team, I think, to generate offense again, because they really know how to close things off, and they keep their foot on the gas the way some teams don't. So is there one thing I can look to? Honestly, get out of the first 5 minutes without a goal against. Give yourself some time to breathe. I don't know who can make that happen. I don't know how they can promise it. It's what they have to do, because they're so much better when they're leading the game.
I've got a better idea. Do what Dallas did in Game 5. Score 9 seconds in. Wouldn't that be an incredible way to get going? It would be nice to see that trend shift in a big way with a statement right out of the gate for the fellas when the puck drops tonight. We got a bit of an extra weight for this one tonight, being in the Central Division, being in the late game. But that'll give you plenty of time to enjoy Winnipeg Sports Talk and check out Murat's latest, what Gabriel Vilardi's return in Game 5 means for the Winnipeg Jets. Murat, enjoy this one tonight, and we'll look forward to more from you on the road, win or lose, as this series shifts to St. Louis. for Game 6 on Friday night. Thanks as always, my friend.
Thank you.
At WPG Murat on X, theathletic.com. One of the best in the biz, our pal Murat. Great to have him on the program. Now, we are going to be talking Bomber Draft coming up in about 20 minutes. But we're first going to be heading out to Ottawa. We'll want to check in on what's up in the nation's capital. No, this has nothing to do with the election. This has everything to do with the Battle of Ontario and the Sens getting that big win in Toronto last night. So we're going to be heading out to Ottawa in a minute. But I do want to remind everybody, if you're going to the game tonight, if you're going to the whiteout party, if you're going to Boston Pizza to get together with your crew for the big game tonight, and you don't have your whites, Royal Sports is stocked up and ready to go. New white hoodies in with a couple of the different Jet logos are there. I can tell you this one has been, it's 2-0 at home in the playoffs, and it's going to be up there in 316 again tonight, hopefully going 3-0. And a lot of talk about this hat. The 5th and 6th versions of the special edition whiteout lids are in right now at Royal Sports. So pop down there, pick them up. You can also peep the Jets Central Division Champion shirts, the President's Trophy winner shirts, the Alex Ovechkin record breaker T-shirt, and everything else at your whiteout headquarters, Royal Sports. While you're there, spring is here. Bikes, soccer, softball, baseball, tennis, you name it. If it's a fun summer activity, they've got you covered there as well. It's all at the Ultimate Sports Superstore, Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Check them out on Instagram as well, at Royal Sports Pembina, for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And I did mention, hey, if you are not in the building tonight, if you're not at one of the parties downtown, your next best place to be is at your Jets headquarters at Boston Pizza, cheering on the team, wearing white. Big game on all the big screens, sound at all Boston Pizzas, and of course, the new playoff menu. Check out the wing flights, which are back, the massive new nacho platter, the Scoville Showdown for you people that like your wings really hot, and of course, those 2 new playoff pizzas, the Triple Pep and the Wingman Pizza, all waiting for you tonight at BP. BPs are going to be rocking tonight for Game 5. And, hey, you'll be able to get into that late-night happy hour between 9 and 12 because the game doesn't start till just before 9 o'clock. All right, so we're going to head to Ottawa right now. First, though, before we bring in Ed Tait for the latest on the Blue Bomber draft, a trip to Ottawa. But first, a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
We're not just for the showboats or the champions. We're here for the good ones, the ones who work hard and show up for others, not to get recognized, but because it's the right thing to do. We'd like to think that our good intentions show up in our beer. We keep working to perfect it, not because we want fame or fanfare, but because you deserve it. 1919, the good you deserve.
All right, this next segment is brought to you by Ben Moss. Ben Moss is proudly Canadian-owned and operated with history dating back more than 100 years, with 3 locations in Winnipeg to serve you at Polo Park Shopping Centre, St. Vital Centre, and Kildonan Place. Ben Moss is committed to customer satisfaction. Check out a large selection of Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, and mine diamonds available with payment plans to suit your need. For more information, check out benmoss.com. Ben Moss, for the love of jewelry. Well, you've got the Jets and Blues battling to stay alive in the quest for jewelry of a Stanley Cup nature. And the Ottawa Senators are still alive as well. Let's welcome in our pal AJ Jakubec from TSN in Ottawa. AJ, what's going on? Hey, a belated happy birthday to you. I saw you celebrating earlier. Everything's going on this week.
Yeah, big week, big birthday, big 5-0. Seems a little bit daunting, but you know what? Better than the alternative. Great to be here.
Hey, just a quick thought. We got a huge Game 5 tonight. Momentum seems to be everything right now in series, much like the Ottawa Leafs series, which we'll get to in a minute. Jets have had this great season, had a great start. St. Louis with a major response at home. This one feels bigger than normal here in Winnipeg tonight. Pretty big gut check for the Winnipeg Jets and a massive game in this first round series. Just thoughts on what we might be seeing tonight and the challenge the Jets have against St. Louis.
Yeah, I was telling you off air, I've seen more of this series from the first two games than the last two, so I saw a lot of the good from Winnipeg. I mean, you could tell, though, you knew even at 2-0 going to St. Louis, watching those first two games, that this was not over by any stretch, because St. Louis was playing hard. Those were great games. That was big boy hockey with a lot of physicality, and just thought those first two games just fantastic all the way around. So we'll see if the Jets can rekindle what they were able to bring in the first couple of games. Obviously, Gabe Vilardi's a big ad for Winnipeg, but yeah, I mean, I feel for Connor Hellebuck, because he's had such a great season, and having just kind of seen the highlights of the last couple of games, he's had some rough moments. So we'll see if he can pull it out. I hope for the Jets' sake and Winnipeg's sake that they can get it done. I'd love to see them go on a run here. But that's a tough, and you can say the same thing about any team in the West. I feel like 8 great teams making the playoffs there, with the way Minnesota finished the year and getting their big boys back. That's a tough matchup for Vegas, as we've seen, and this is a real tough matchup for the Winnipeg Jets with St. Louis. They've got that playoff experience, whether it's not all these guys won a cup, but some of those key cornerstone players like Braden Shannon, Bolton Parayko, and obviously Bennington and goal, that gives them a bit of a leg up. So it's up to the Jets to figure things out back on home ice and hopefully find a way to rekindle what they brought the first couple of games.
Yeah, well, the best way to shut up critics is to go out and take care of business, and that's exactly what the Jets will look to do and hope to do tonight at home in this late one against the St. Louis Blues. What a difference a few days makes in the Battle of Ontario. And listen, this is really different if we're comparing Jets and Sens. The Sens sort of came in playing with house money. They needed to make the playoffs. They've done that. They were a big underdog, and they were facing a sweep just a couple games ago. Dare I say that Ottawa has the momentum coming back home for Game 6 right now. And once again, much like the Jets have some playoff demons that they've got to stare down, the Leafs are dealing with this all over again, AJ. How about this comeback by the Sens right back in this series?
Yeah, it's fascinating to watch. It's just, I mean, for me, like, honestly, the most fascinating thing to watch is actually the national media, which, like, they got guys crapping their Toronto Maple Leafs underoos right now because they're so upset that their beloved Toronto Maple Leafs might be missing the playoffs. It's unbelievable, Hustler. It's unbelievable to me how, like, I know how much you follow the NFL. Do you hear half an hour, if they have an hour show, half an hour of talk about the New York Giants and the New York Jets? Or do they talk about the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs and the relevant teams that are actually winning? And look, the Leafs, look, they're relevant. They've been in the playoffs 9 years in a row, but my goodness, there's 7 Canadian teams. There's 5 in the playoffs, and you'd think there's only one. It's quite comical to watch just how they went from being this juggernaut that got past everything, and now they're all crapping their Maple Leafs underoos. So.
Hey, the media side of this is fascinating. And I've said, I mean, listen, we feel, and I think this is why there's a little bit of kinship between Winnipeg and Ottawa and the fan bases of the two, because, more often than not, especially the national broadcasters are focusing on the other guys. I mean, unless you're playing, an American team or, you're on a local broadcast. To your point, I don't think I can ever remember. And listen, this has been bad for a while, but this year in the Battle of Ontario, I mean, the Ottawa Senators may as well be Utah HC half the time, the way they're talking about this series. I mean, the focus is so much on Toronto from a media standpoint. Got to be incredibly frustrating for Senators fans watching this.
Yeah, they're not big fans of certain things when it comes to the national media. Let's put it that way. And there's a lot of them. It's mind-boggling. But I mean, moving on to the hockey. Look, the Leafs it's, obviously the Jets have had some playoff demons for sure, but this is like that on steroids. I mean, they're 1-8 in playoff series, since Matthews and Marner got there. And the fact that they're 1-13 in closing games, I mean, that's an insane stat. So, like, normally you would say, and I still think, okay, would you rather be in Toronto's shoes up 3-2 or Ottawa's shoes down 3-2? Normally you wouldn't even hesitate. You'd be like, oh, Toronto all day. You got 2 chances to win. But I actually feel it's almost a pick 'em at this stage, just because, I mean, what Ottawa's doing, I mean, they seem to be getting more and more comfortable with each passing game in the series. A team that looked like deer in the headlights in game 1 with 13 players that had never played a playoff game, and it looked like it. And now they're starting to feel more and more comfortable with the series. But the reality is, it's because of what you see on the other side. And look, different coach, Greg Berube, and at times they've looked like the St. Louis Blues that won a Stanley Cup, the way they defend, the way they collapse the house. The blue line is a completely different blue line when you add in Chris Tanev and Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Simon Benoit and what they've brought to the table. So they've done a really good job in a lot of different areas. But the bottom line is, it's the big boys. And they're good when the Toronto Maple Leafs were winning, but non-existent in Game 5, a combined, and look, a couple of empty net goals, but a combined minus 18 in that last game for Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander, and Morgan Riley. So I do think there's a hump that group needs to get over, and beating Ottawa doesn't get them over the hump either. They need to at least get to the conference finals with home ice advantage in the next round if they get there. So there's a ton of pressure. They haven't dealt with that pressure very well, in past years. And even with Tampa Bay and Florida and Boston, you say, okay, those are legit Stanley Cup contenders. But, they blew it against Columbus in the bubble. They blew it in the Canadian division the year they were up 3-1 against the Montreal Canadiens when they were a top seed and the Habs snuck into the playoffs. So this is a group that right now there's a lot of questions, and there should be a lot of questions if they can get it done. But the reality is it's still 3-2. They still have 2 chances to win. Ottawa has they're going to have to win 2 games. I'd still much rather only win 1. But boy, if this could go to 7, to see as my pal who does my soccer broadcast with me, Gordon Smith, originally from Scotland, he says it's squeaky bum time in Toronto, and my goodness, it'll be really squeaky if it gets to 7.
Listen, there are a lot of tight sphincters around the National Hockey League, but I would say the GTA is right up near the top. It's been that way in Winnipeg for a couple days, but again, it's 2-2 going into a home game tonight. We will see what happens. I'm sort of with you. Like, I kind of think whoever wins Game 6 probably wins the series. I mean, there's all the narratives about the Leafs in the playoffs, and they're legitimate based on what they have and haven't done over, this kind of era with Matthews and Marner and Nylander. But I'll tell you what, AJ, I mean, if this one gets back to 7 after being, I would say, fortunate to be up 3-0 with the 2 overtime games, I'm not sure that there'll be pressure on like anything that we've seen before for the Toronto Maple Leafs playing at home. And you already saw their fans turn on them last night. I mean, there was booing in the building. It wasn't a particularly supportive crowd to begin with without much going on. It would be fascinating. I mean, the hockey world, I think, just needs a Game 7 for everything fun around it before the greatness that is a winner-take-all game.
Well, and the other thing, too, is I feel like, and I know we're right around the same age, like, it used to be when you're down 3-0, it just felt like it was a completely impossible task. And now I credit the Boston Red Sox of 2004 for basically giving teams a playbook for how it needs to be done. And even if you're a young player and you don't remember that, Brady Tkachuk, he talked about watching the Netflix special on the 2004 Red Sox and how they got it done. And So there's a playbook. Everyone knows it's cliche, but it's one game at a time. And the fact that we've seen not just a couple of reverse sweeps in the NHL, because it used to be just ancient history, 1942, 1975. Well, I was born in 75, and I'd heard about the Islanders and what they did, and then almost doing it the next round against the Philadelphia Flyers. And the Flyers were up 3-0 and survived in Game 7, and then ended up beating the Sabres in the Stanley Cup. But that just felt like ancient history. And then the Red Sox did it. And then you started to see it a little bit more in other series and other sports. And it's happened in junior hockey. It happened in junior hockey this year with Kitchener and Windsor. And so it just feels like there's more of a playbook to know that. And then, of course, you saw with Philly doing it against Boston. Claude Giroux was on that team. You saw it with, San Jose losing to Los Angeles. And it felt like in that series that the Sharks panicked midway through the series. I think that's one advantage that the Leafs have. Doesn't sound like they're going to make wholesale changes, some minor tweaks. But I don't think Craig Berube's going to panic like maybe the Sharks did against the Kings. But we've seen this. We saw it even, you think of Vancouver, the year they won the Stanley Cup. They never won the Stanley Cup. The year they got to the Stanley Cup and lost to the Bruins. They were up through at 3-0 on Chicago in round 1, and that got to Game 7 in overtime. And then last year in the finals, Edmonton and Florida. So it doesn't feel as daunting as it did pre-Red Sox Yankees. And I feel like for an Ottawa Senators fan base that went through 4 series losses in the late 90s, early 2000s against Toronto, it is kind of Yankees Red Sox like if they could pull it off. But still a lot of work to do. We'll see if they can continue to plant another seed of doubt and win Game 6 tomorrow night.
Oh my God! Well, we know that the building's going to be rocking. Sens fans are going to be fired up. I'm sure your show today is going to be an absolute riot of positivity and excitement for the game on Thursday night. Hey, before we go, you're obviously originally from Edmonton, and I've been paying close attention. What a crazy series that has been! Like for the Oilers to play the way they did last night and completely dominate the Kings on the road, where the Kings have been the best home team all season long, after a series where you're probably looking back at the game, should have maybe been a sweep for LA. It is sort of incredible that the Oilers are going back home with the chance to move on to the second round.
It is. Look, it pains me to say this. Jim Hiller, I dealt with him when I called games in the Western Hockey League in Tri-Cities and in Chilliwack, and real nice man. Great to deal with. He's been out of his depth in this series. And good, you're a good coach if you lead a team to the record that he led them to. He's obviously a good coach, but there's a difference between being a good coach and someone that is, one of the better coaches. Like, you got 16 teams left. You're not playing Anaheim anymore. You're not playing San Jose anymore. The 1-3-1 might work against the Ducks and the Sharks and Utah and some of those other teams. Utah's actually not a bad team. But it's not working against the Edmonton Oilers. It didn't work for 3 years against the Edmonton Oilers. And what baffles me watching this series, and he made one of the worst challenges I've ever seen in the NHL, which turned Game 3. So there's that. But that aside, in the first 4 games of this series, they go out, they forecheck hard. Edmonton's weakness is, their blue line in their own end. Guy like Evan Bouchard, he's fantastic. Do you want Evan Bouchard playing in his end, or do you want him in the offensive end? So they put all this pressure on, and they dominate early in games when they actually go out and forecheck. And then late in games, they sit back in the 1-3-1, give Edmonton center ice, try and defend in their own zone. And then you got McDavid and Draisaitl and Bouchard with his bomb from the point. It's mind-boggling to me what he's done, not to mention the fact that he's run his players, and in particular his defense, into the ground. And then last night he's playing Kempe on the blue line. If the Winnipeg Jets need a goal tonight, do you want Mark Scheifele on the blue line? It's asinine what he's doing. This is the worst playoff coaching performance I've seen in years. He is just getting absolutely crushed by Chris Knobloch. I mean, it's an Edmonton team with flaws, but they're getting stronger and more confident. And Evander Kane, like, I can't believe after missing almost an entire year of hockey, how well he's playing. And so the Oilers, I feel like the Oilers, like the body language on some of those Kings players that you see just doesn't look good. And it looks like a team that thinks their coach let them down, starting with that decision in Game 3. But also, I mean, we heard Darcy Kemper's comments last night, and he was talking about the fact that maybe we need to forecheck a little bit more. Like, it's just mind-boggling to me.
I felt for Kemper last night. He was absolutely brilliant keeping them in the game as long as they did. But at some point, the dam was going to break. Hey, quickly before we go, we had CFL Draft last night. Your old boss is now the commissioner of the Canadian Football League, and we got a season coming up. You excited to get back in the booth? How are things around the Red Blacks as we get closer to kickoff?
Yeah, always excited. It's different. It's been so long since the Sens have been in the playoffs that it's kind of overshadowed things in a big way, which is a good thing. But the Red Blacks are going to have a good team this year. Like, I feel like they took a major step last year. I mean, they won 14 games in 4 years. And then, they were 9-8-1 last year. And they started 8-3-1 and then had some injuries. Drew Brown was playing hurt, and then he finally sat out. And they lost to Darius Pickett, and it wasn't the same team for a while, but still got into the playoffs, 9-8-1, had a great first half against Toronto, and then the wheels fell off in the second half. So I think they'll be able to build on that. I think they addressed, a lot of needs. They got better on the O-line with Peter Godber from Saskatchewan. Gino Lewis, bringing him in free agency, I think gives them, a couple of legit number one receivers. Justin Hardy was fantastic. You've got Addison. You've got Khalil Pimpleton that had a fantastic rookie year. And you didn't have much of a running game. I mean, Braylon Addison was playing running back to end the season last year, and he did an admirable job filling in, but he's still a receiver. And so to bring in William Stanback, I know they've got, I think, an NFL player that's probably going to be announced in the next couple of days that's coming in at running back as well. So it just feels like all the holes on offense that needed to be filled got filled. Same with on defense, a lot of changes in the secondary. That's been the weakness for this team the last couple of years. New D coordinator in Will Fields as well. So my biggest concern is it does feel like the power in the CFL for the first time in my life has gone to the East. I feel like the two best teams in the league are Toronto and Montreal. They've won the last two Grey Cups. The first time since the 60s that the East has had a better record than the West in back-to-back years. And I feel like that's not changing this year. So I do think they're going to be really good. But at the same time, where does really good get you in the East? Bill could get you in third. Because Toronto and Montreal...
Chip in a chair in the playoffs, AJ. You know how it is. And listen, I think
for sure.
The West, I think, is as wide open as we've seen it in a long time. And we'll have plenty of time to get to that as we get closer to kickoff. Right now, we'll see if the Sens can force a Game 7, and we'll see if our Winnipeg Jets can get back in the win column tonight in a crucial opportunity in Game 5 here in Winnipeg. AJ Jakubek's been with us. Juice, great to see you, and let's do this again soon. Good luck to the Sens. We need a Game 7 of the Battle of Ontario.
Absolutely, and good luck to the mighty Jets, and I really hope they get it done.
Talk to you soon, AJ. Thanks for doing this.
You bet. Anytime.
All right, good stuff with AJ. Bomber fans, we're going to get into the draft right away with Ed Tait. I was fired up last night seeing the names come off the board, and I know a lot of Bomber fans were. We'll get to that in just a minute. We'll save fans' first fan feedback about Game 5 till after Ed is with us. But I will give you a quick Breezy Bend golf update for you. Back to singles competition on the PGA Tour this week. It's the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson. And I'll make a couple picks for you. And I did hook up with Patty over at Coolbet. And we did put together a bit of an exclusive. But down in Texas, TPC Craig Ranch, Scotty Scheffler, the clear favorite for this one. But a big one. It's interesting. CJ is the huge Korean sponsor. So most of the top Koreans are in the field, including a couple of my faves. Sung J.M., don't mind him at 24-1. But Liv's actually in Korea this week, which is interesting. That'll start tomorrow. We'll hit it in the Coolbet lines coming up. But all our golf reports are brought to you by Breezy Bend. Cannot wait to get out for the Manitoba Open later on this year. Breezy's Open, looking great. Can't wait to show off the course and the new clubhouse to everyone coming in for the Manitoba Open. If you'd like more information on getting on the waiting list at Breezy Bend, give Corey Johnson a call at the clubhouse or check them out online at breezybend.ca. All right, let's bring Eddie Tait in from BlueBombers.com. Big night last night in the Canadian Football League. The Blue Bombers were on the clock at 6. They had 2 picks in the second round. And Ed, I think it's safe to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way the draft broke probably had big smiles on a lot of faces at Blue Bomber HQ.
Yeah, it was really interesting because, I had read a lot about this, prepped a lot on this, and had gone to the Combine in Regina in March and had got to sit in on a few of the Bomber meetings. And so all along, there was the expectation that they would probably take a linebacker with the 6th overall pick. I don't think they thought that Connor Shea, the guy they ended up with, would be there at 6 because he was number 1 on a couple of mock drafts that I saw. John Hodge from 3 Down Nation and Marshall Ferguson from the CFL.ca. Both those guys do a ton of work on this stuff, and they had Connor Shea listed at 1. So the Bombers didn't think that he would be there, and that was an easy one. And then it just seemed that the rest of their night went from there. You've already hit or scored a touchdown, I use that analogy, with your first pick, and then the picks after that got more and more interesting. And it kind of actually started earlier, Huss, when they made a trade to move up in the global draft and get a guy that we found out today Danny McManus had spied earlier and wanted to put on the Bombers' neg list, and then they found out he was a global, so they moved up in the global draft to grab this guy. So they had quite the haul yesterday. I mean, everybody's going to say that the day after the draft, every team. We'll see in a few weeks even, how many of these guys look like they could be players and maybe even make the team this year.
I think we'll probably spend more time talking about the 3rd pick by the Bombers at number 18. But let's talk about Connor Shea. And then the Bombers go linebacker again, which might have been a little surprise knowing that you got secondary needs, you got offensive line needs. But Jalen Smith, a linebacker from North Texas, 2 highly regarded players playing at pretty good programs south of the border, coming in to shore up the linebacking core. What do we know about Shea and Smith while we're at it, talking about the early round linebackers?
Yeah, so Shea is one of those guys. He was born in California, but his dad is from Prince Edward Island, so that's how he's got national status. And look, I'm not going to pretend that I've watched film on all these guys, Huss, but there's been a lot of people that have made comparisons to Alex Singleton, who had a similar kind of career path.
We'll take that.
Yeah, we'll take that big time. So they like him. He had a really good final year at Wyoming. A guy that I would expect right away will make the team and play on special teams. Jalen Smith is an interesting one. Kyle Walters talked about that just a little while ago when he did a Zoom availability with some of the media. The Bombers had targeted 3 linebackers that they wanted at that 6th spot, and Jalen Smith was one of them too. And when he was still there, when the Bombers went to make their 2nd pick, they said, well, we can't not take this guy. We love this guy. He crushed it in the interview, apparently, with the Bombers, and they love his versatility, the guy from North Texas. And Kyle Walters said today that one of the things that might have impacted him in terms of this draft is that when he was at North Texas, he played a little bit of corner, a little bit of rush end, a little bit of linebacker. And so teams weren't necessarily sure where to put him on their depth chart. But when it comes to Jordan Younger's defense, they love that. They love that they can play you all over. But I think Kyle Walters fell in love with this guy watching film and then during the interview process too. So when he's still there after you've taken a linebacker already, that was just too good a situation for them to pass on, and that's why they went linebacker. And then we'll get to the 3rd pick, as you said.
Well, listen, I don't know if you caught the show yesterday, but we were talking a little bit about the draft. John Hodge came on, we were going through his mock draft, and we got talking about the quarterbacks. And Taylor Ehlers, he had him mocked to the Bombers in the 15 pick when he made this, but that was before the NFL draft. Now, there was a thought that he might get selected. He didn't, and didn't sign with anyone afterwards. And I think because of that, the thought that maybe he would have to be picked earlier. And I did one on the record. I really wanted this guy. I think, we've seen what Trey Ford and particularly Nathan Rourke have done. There are great Canadian quarterbacks and guys. And to be honest, Curtis Rourke's a great story. Picked in the 7th round by the 49ers. And we all remember what the last 7th round quarterback for the Niners has done. That guy's Brock Purdy. Shanahan knows his QBs. And I would imagine that a Curtis Rourke appearance in the Canadian Football League is pretty far down the line. Ehlers is a little different. This is a guy that's played, was the Heck Crichton winner from Wilfrid Laurier, a Canadian guy that's been playing Canadian football, has been playing 3-down rules, has been playing with the Canadian ball, and has generated so much NFL interest. I said I would be fine with the Bombers taking him at 6, making sure that you get him, and then filling the holes that they can with the other 2 picks in the 2nd round. Well, I mean, it couldn't have worked out better. You still get the guy at 18 after 2 guys that the teams really loved. We have not seen a Canadian quarterback in Winnipeg and, that has had a chance of being, a starter at some point in a long time. And when I just look at the time frame of where Zach Collaros is, now, I'm not sure whether he'll be here. Maybe you can speak to that with the situation with some mini camp offers south of the border. But Ed, I can't think of a better opportunity for a young man with interest in playing at the quarterback position in the CFL to come into an organization like the Bombers, with a coaching staff like the Bombers, and most importantly, a quarterback room led by Zach Collaros, who, he's got 1 year left in his contract. He's been around, not too sure how much longer he's going to be playing. Listen, nothing's guaranteed, but this is a really exciting, one of the most exciting Canadian quarterback prospects we've seen in years, and it seems like it's a perfect fit here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, there's a lot to bite into there, isn't there, Huss? First of all, Brock Purdy, by the way, was on the Bombers' neg list before he got drafted by San Francisco. I think people remember that. That's crazy that, you're the last pick in the NFL draft.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, it's not unreasonable that he might have ended up back up here. But like you said, San Francisco knows what they're doing with quarterbacks. So I'm not sure about Curtis Rourke and how long he'll be down there, but he's going to get a long look from them. In terms of Ehlers, it's a really cool pick. Look, that's the best way for me to explain it. I'm really intrigued by this. I think it's one of those picks that creates a lot of buzz, and that's no disrespect to Connor Shea and Jalen Smith, because they're going to make this team right out of the gate. We just talked to Taylor Ehlers. He did another Zoom call just a little bit ago. He's leaving for Green Bay tomorrow for their rookie mini camp. He'll be in Buffalo next week for their rookie mini camp. Apparently, he had a dozen teams reach out to him after the NFL draft on Saturday that, when he wasn't picked. This guy, this is the first time I talked to him, was just a couple hours ago. There's a lot to like about this guy. He says all the right things. He's got a real good attitude about everything. The other thing is he's 6'6", 235 pounds, and he can throw, he's got a howitzer. So there, the skill set's all there. And you don't look, the reason he's drawing all this NFL interest is not because of what he did at Wilfrid Laurier. That might get his foot in the door. That he went to the Senior Bowl and he balled out. He was at 2 other All-Star games, the CGI, the College Gridiron Showcase, the Tropicana Bowl, I think it was called, in Florida. And he kept shining. And so that's why he's getting these NFL looks. But to your point, Huss, about how he might fit with the Bombers when he gets to main camp. And that's the expectation, is that, look, maybe he gets an offer from Green Bay or Buffalo. But, these things you're usually a long shot because their depth charts are already set. And you've got to really, really shine to get even a contract offer. So when he comes to Bomber camp, he'll mix Bomber rookie camp next week. But when he gets to Bomber mini camp, you're right, it's a great situation for him. First of all, just to learn from Zach Collaros. It's a crowded quarterback room, too, when you look at it with Terry Wilson, Jake Dolegala from last year, Chris Strudler coming back from the knee injury, and they signed Shea Paterson from Saskatchewan in free agency. So there's a lot of quarterbacks. So it's going to be a crowded room when he gets here. But what a great situation for him to learn. After that, it's up to him, right? Like he might get into a preseason game if he's here and has enough snaps in Winnipeg. But the season comes pretty fast. I think they're really intrigued by this guy. I am too. I'm sure every Bomber fan is too. But that's where we also have to pump the brakes a little bit because this is still Zach Collaros' team. And yes, you want to plan for down the road. But let's get this guy in the building and see what he can do first before we start anointing him or, he can start signing all those corporate sponsorship deals as a star.
Well, you know what I mean? Listen, I think it's important to note that, this isn't really a pick for 2025, in my opinion.
That's right.
This is a pick for 2026 and beyond. And I think there'd be great value to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to have him with the team in the room, learning from a player like Zach Collaros. Because, with the net, 6'6", the rocket arm. the numbers that he put up at Wilfrid Laurier, the fact that he's the first QB from a Canadian university even invited to participate in the Senior Bowl. I think it speaks to the incredible potential that this guy has. There's absolutely no pressure to rush him. The quarterback more so than any other position is so cerebral. And it comes to preparation. It comes to game planning. And a lot of it comes from experience. And Zach Collaros has a lot of that. And I think Zach, knowing where he is at his career, this isn't a young hotshot coming in that's 3 years younger than the guy that's looking to take someone's job. It is just perfect. And I'm really hoping that, we'll see him in with the club, learning, and you'll get a chance through practice, and who knows what happens in games. Maybe he plays a little bit, but to me, this isn't about right now. This is about the potential of having a difference maker at the most important position that happens to have a Canadian passport down the road in the post-Zach Collaros era, because with all due respect to the guys that they brought in, those are kind of more backups and guys that we've seen a little bit done. This is about, someone that might turn into a guy that can be a starter for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at some point in the future.
Yeah, the name that came up a couple times, Huss, today as a comparable was Drew Brown, because remember when he first came to Winnipeg, he was the backup to the backup. Sean McGuire was a number 2 quarterback for a while, and Drew Brown, to his credit, he just kind of attached himself to Zach Collaros' side. Whenever Zach was in the building, Drew Brown was in the building. He became a sponge, learned everything, became one of Zach's good friends. And then remember that game a couple of years ago where Zach, late in the game, a critical moment, Zach, there was a concussion protocol, or the spotter pulled him out of the game in the fourth quarter, and Drew Brown came in and went zip, 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 3 completions in a row, and they kicked the winning field goal. And then he just got better and better from there. And in his spot duty, shone like crazy, and then got that opportunity with Ottawa. So, you don't want to fast track this guy, because there's a lot of potential there. He's still got to do the work. I'm excited about this guy, and I think there's a future for him. The best thing he can do right now is get through these opportunities. Go for it in Green Bay, go for it in Buffalo. But if it doesn't work out, get up to Winnipeg, learn from Zach Collaros. And as you said, Hassan, this is a real good point. He's been playing Canadian ball, so you don't have to remind him about the 12th guy on the field and motion and, all the little intricacies that make the CFL game different than the American game. I think this kid's got a ton of potential, and it's going to be pretty cool when he walks through the doors.
Yeah, listen, not having to teach him a whole new set of rules, having him brought up on that, is it's unique. We just simply don't normally see that in the Canadian Football League, and it is exciting. Folks, head on over to bluebombers.com. Ed's got a great breakdown on the entire class of 2025 for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers through all of the rounds. We won't get to all those players. I'll let people read that for themselves. But before we go, you mentioned that trade in the global draft. And what do we know about Kamari Munier-Bailey, who is a product of Birmingham, England, of all places, but have been playing in the NCAA, and as you mentioned, had some connection to Danny Mack.
Yeah, again, the Bombers were interested in signing him just as an import player. That's how good he is. And then when they found out he was a global, it made it even more intriguing to them because they didn't have to put him on their neg list. They could just go get him. Apparently, I have to get the facts on this straight. I don't know a whole lot about him, other than one of our scouting people came into my little area last night during the draft and said, you got to do a story on this guy when training camp starts because he comes from a big family in Birmingham, England. Apparently, he's either a boxer's son or has boxed. Apparently, he crushed it in his interview, too, with the Bombers before the global draft. One of the things that's interesting about the global draft is a lot of these guys are playing ball in the States or from Africa or Europe. And you got to, the first things first that the CFL teams ask is, can you get into Canada? Because of all the things now with the immigration policy and guys trying to get their green cards, they don't necessarily want to leave the States for fear that they can't get back. So this guy wants to come up here and play. They're really intrigued by him, and so am I too. So with some of the guys like Connor Shea is going to a rookie mini camp next week too. So this guy will apparently be at rookie camp next Wednesday. So that's another guy that I'll be keeping an eye on day one of practice because they like him as an end too, that, they're stacked at defensive tackle, but I'd like to get some more guys that can maybe give Willie Jefferson a breather once in a while. They added James Vaughters. Brock Gowanlock from the University of Manitoba has come back. So they got some people at the end position, but you can never have too much of a good thing.
Does he have the British accent, Ed?
I don't know. We'll find out. I remember who was the guy? They had a British guy a couple of years ago, Iola, I think his name was, and he was a Jacksonville Jaguar prospect. And I remember he came into my office for the first time to do an interview, and he sat down, and it was sort of, okay, let's talk about, and you forget he's from England, right? Let's talk about your, Jelly, hey, Jerry, mate. And it's just so odd. I'm so used to these guys with their southern accents, or the guys from Saskatchewan or Manitoba, and this guy's saying, I just love the weather here, mate. And the guy sounds like Jason Statham, it's just, I love it. So that's, the global program has been controversial, but be able to talk to a guy like that or Jamison Sheehan with an Aussie accent, I think it's awesome.
Hey, listen, I'm absolutely here for it, especially if he can come in and help the Blue Bombers win some football games. It's all up. The class of 2025, Ed Tait, meet the Blue Bombers 2025 draft class, bluebombers.com right now. And Ed, now on to, what's the schedule coming up? I mean, I know we're all focused on this hockey game tonight and everything, but it's not going to be too long. I mean, Fish are starting. They hit the road today. The Sea Bears are getting ready, and we're not too long from seeing players in town and, of course, getting back out to Princess Auto Stadium.
Yeah, so, look, the Bombers rookie camp starts May 7th. Veterans report on May 10th. The whole team will be on the field on May 11th. I hope the Jets are still playing right then. And the Jets are getting the spotlight. People can come to our site and others to get their Bomber information. But I hope the Jets are still in a long run. But yeah, so next Wednesday, rookies, and then a week from this Sunday, everybody will be on the field. Not everybody, guys that are in those rookie mini camps, but we're pretty excited about it. I know that this team took some hits in the offseason, Huss, with Kenny Lawler, Liam Dobson, Terrell Ford going. I think they quietly did a good job of putting some pieces back together here too. And this is still going to be a really good football team. So I'm pretty geeked up about next week when this thing gets started for real.
Cannot wait for it, Ed. We'll look forward to having you back very soon, and look forward to getting going with Blue Bomber football for 2025, and hopefully another trip to the big game that ends differently. And of course, it's going to be right here in the Peg at Princess Auto Stadium. Have a good one, my friend, and enjoy the game tonight.
Right on, Huss. Appreciate the shout out for our site. Thanks, man.
No problem. Oh, you guys are doing a great job. New studio too. Did you build that, by the way? Was that all you in the off season?
I had nothing to do with it, and that's why it looks so good.
Take it easy, bud.
See ya.
Right on. There is Eddie Tait, bluebombers.com. Great stuff. All right, we're going to get to the Coolbet lines in a minute. Let's get Remis back in here, though. Remo, I think we need a vibe check right now of our chat. I know it got a little off the rails earlier on. It seems to have quieted down. Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray is very simply, how are you feeling about Game 5 right now? I have gotten over the disappointment of Game 4. It took all of Sunday and most of the therapeutic nature of Monday's show, but I can't wait to get to the rink tonight. I can't wait to throw the whites on. I cannot wait to be part of the energy in the building, and I hope that the passion of the 15K plus in Canada Life Center can help push this team to be the team that we've seen all year long, and that's a team that's a real tough out at home. And, of course, Connor Hellebuck. Let us know what you think right now in the chat for tonight's game. Feel free to throw your predictions in as well. Where's your head at right now?
I already forgot about Games 3 and Games 4, and if I forgot about them, I'm sure the Winnipeg Jets have it. They're walking around saying, hey, we're the President's Trophy winners. We had the best home record in the NHL this season. We're just going to take it one game at a time and continue to play Winnipeg Jets hockey, and, hopefully their best is able to be good enough for them to come out with the win. So I think whatever happened, Game 3, Game 4, doesn't matter. They're focused on the next game. And, hey, I hope it's a competitive one tonight. They don't all have to be competitive to go to 7 games. You can have some weird ones where there's blowouts on either side. It's happened before. You'd like to see them give up less than 4 goals. I think that would be a short-term win. I'd like to see a power play goal as well mixed in there. Maybe a goal from line 2 or line 3 in there, and that's your recipe to having a victory. It's going to be tough. Binnington, we haven't really talked about him. He's very good as well. He's pretty good at his job too. Blues are solid, so I think we'll get something more like Games 1 or 2 than 3 or 4. And one thing we haven't really talked about, like DeMella was out with an illness. Like, was that going through the whole team? Did we have a Josh Morrissey situation there from 4 Nations? That he had to sit out where other guys experienced.
To your point, doesn't matter.
I'm sure that
none of it matters now.
I want to get into the graphic details, but I'm sure that the days off, to get Velarde healthy, Ehlers skating in a yellow jersey, I don't think that is going to hurt.
All right, let's get to fan feedback. Brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling tickets on the Winnipeg resale market. Fans First has no added fees. So when you go to fansfirst.ca and you click on tickets, that is the price, not ridiculous surcharges after you've pressed, yes, I want those tickets. Check out the site today over at fansfirst.ca. All right, we asked the question, here are the answers. Nicole J, excited, but ... Frosty Winnipeg, I'm feeling pretty positive, but I'm also on Xanax. Dallas Pauls, I'm looking forward to a big win tonight, Huss. I love it. Boring Sean Monahan. The Jets are the first place team with structure and high-end players. Why can't they win Game 5? Mary Jane, positive vibes tonight. Mary Jane's always bringing the positive vibes in the WST chat. Joe Kevison, need them to prove it to me tonight. Listen, they got to prove it to everyone and themselves. And it's a big test, but a great opportunity too to push closer to moving out of this first round against a real quality team. Rat River Rebel says anything can happen, meaning the Jets can still come out and steal the show. And Dan Jets fan, are you at 316 tonight? Damn right I am. I'll be sitting in the exact same seat, wearing the exact same outfit that I was in game number 1 and game number 2. And I'm hoping for the same result. Lots great. Phyllis, don't stop believing. The journey. And Bobby B, best of 3 with home ice advantage. Go Jets, go. And Natalie, our friend, feeling good for the game. Go Jets, go for Mike Wynn. Let's get her done, folks. Positive vibes, positive attitudes, and lots of positive energy going into tonight. That's what I think this team needs. That's what the building's going to need. So if you're going to the game tonight, bring your best. I think it's all hands on deck tonight for a big challenge of the St. Louis Blues in game number 5. Again, fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, fansfirst.ca, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right, let's get over to the Coolbet lines tonight. 3 games this evening in the National Hockey League. The Montreal Canadiens are facing elimination against the Caps. Montreal plus 158. The Washington Capitals minus 189. The Battle of Florida continues. Lightning have to win on home ice to extend it to Florida in Game 6. Panthers minus 105. Tampa the slightest of favorites at minus 111. And listen, the bookmakers don't take feelings into account. Jets Blues tonight. Jets minus 175 favorites. St. Louis plus 148. And if you go all the way down in the NHL playoff section of Coolbet and you click on Winnipeg Jets, St. Louis Blues series price, the Jets are still a pretty significant favorite at minus 172. The St. Louis Blues at plus 140. Game 5, so important in a 2-2 series. I think about 80% of teams that win Game 5 move on. I know it is not officially a must-win. It really feels like it is right now, and let's see what this team is made of tonight when they drop the puck. A couple of other interesting series prices. The Ottawa Senators are down to 3-1 to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs minus 400. They've got 2 more cracks at it tomorrow night. Going to be in Ottawa. We'll see whether the Sens can come all the way back and force a Game 7. Dallas, Colorado tomorrow as well. The Avalanche plus 175 favorites and the Dallas Stars minus 217. And after their big win last night in LA, the Oilers have stormed back. Last week, they were plus 375. They're now minus 385, and the Kings are 3-1 to win the series. And Tampa, if you think Tampa might have a few rabbits in their hat, plus 650 for the Lightning to win the series. Panthers, minus 1,000. Now, I did put together a WST parlay tonight. Speaking of positive vibes only. Jets to win. Period. Money line. Winnipeg. Kyle Connor to score tonight. And points from Josh Morrissey and the returning Gabriel Velarde. How about a winner from Kyle Connor on the power play from Velarde and Morrissey? That would be fine. We got a nice boost up to plus 675 on that. That is over in the exclusives. So we're lined up with hockey tonight. NBA playoffs this evening. 2 big games. Lakers, 5.5-point favorites at home against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Lakers down 3-1. They have to win to extend the series. The Houston Rockets in a similar situation. They're 4-point favorites, minus 175 on the money line. The Golden State Warriors think they can take care of business tonight and move on, plus 148 on the money line. And I mentioned in our Breezy Bend Golf Report that it is the CJ Cup, the Byron Nelson. We've got the heaviest of heavy favorites is Scotty Scheffler at 3-1. Then we go all the way to 20-1 for Jordan Spieth. As I mentioned, this is a huge tournament for the Korean guys. Partly because their sponsorships, which they're pretty much all sponsored by CJ, by the CJ Cup. And they are all playing at this event. And I love Sung Jae Im in this event. Plus 2,400 or 24-1. The other guy that's looking good is Benny On at 27-1. Now, if you do want if you like Benny On, go over to the exclusives. Our boy Pat Mayo's got him as a special boost up to 30-1 in the exclusives for the weekly boost. That's for Benny On, a longtime favorite of mine. Now, Patty and I did put together a parlay, and I believe it's referred to now as the WST Golf Parlay. Yeah, the WST Golf Special. And we're going to ride with Team Korea here. Benny On, top 20. Sung Jae Im, top 20. And Si Woo Kim, top 20. Plus 892 if you did it yourself. Boost it up to plus 1024. More than 10-1. That is in the exclusives. The super boost is plus 105. Scotty Scheffler to place top 20 and Canadian Taylor Pendrith to make the cut. That's plus 105. There's a bunch of baseball combos today. What does Patty have for the Patty Knows puck? Tom Wilson to get a point. Barkov over two or more shots on goal. And a point for our young Lion, Cole Perfetti. That's boosted to plus 542. We've got a shot prop. The Dishon Dimes. Scheifele's in that one. Assists for Scheifele, Kucherov, and Nick Suzuki. Up to plus 464. And Kyle Connor's in the Lamplighters tonight. Ovi and Kyle Connor both to score, plus 463. And Pat's weekly boost for the CJ Cup is Valimaki and Tosti, top 20. That one's just about to 15-1, plus 1455. All there for you. Oh, and if you do like the O Canada parlay, Habs and Jets to win. That's got a nice boost up to plus 351. Great odds. 24/7, 365 over at our partners at Coolbet. Check it out. And the Wednesday night Super Boost, by the way, Kucherov to get a point, Luka Doncic 25 or more points in that Laker game. That goes from minus 196 all the way to even money. All there in the combo cards. WST parlay, again, Jets win, Kyle Connor goal, Velarde and Morrissey points, plus 675 over in the exclusives. Reem, it has been an agonizing wait through these last three shows, through more than 72 hours. But tonight, 8:30, well, more like 8:52, we will get our answer as to how this team rebounds from a miserable trip out to St. Louis. The stakes are very high. But I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be a very memorable night, or it will be a very memorable night one way or the other tonight at the rink. But I think this team, I think you got to have faith that this team, what they've shown us all year long, the resiliency, the commitment to each other is going to be on full display tonight. And our all-world goaltender is going to step up with one of his best games, and the Jets can find a way to get that third win and put the Blues to the brink as the series heads back on Friday night.
Yeah, as you and Murat were saying, this has been several years in the making with early playoff exits. The last two, losing 4 straight after winning the first one, and even getting revenge or redemption from 2019, where St. Louis won Game 5, and the Jets went into St. Louis for a total no-show, losing Game 6, and then a lot of other stuff happened after that. But we are here in the now in 2025. And the Jets are the President's Trophy winners with home ice advantage. So, yeah, we'll see. Either way, us win or lose, I know it'll be a very, very interesting show tomorrow. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this ends. But first, we got to get a puck drop. It's going to be a very late night tonight. I'm sure Connor Rabchak and I will be doing some post-game coverage. I imagine I'll be walking to my car at a late hour and staying up late, posting on all of our social medias. So stay tuned. We got some great content out on the Reels and TikTok. You're on YouTube, separate videos. So follow us on all the platforms there, but here on YouTube, and shout out to the podcast listeners as well.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, listen, it's been a great week. You've been absolutely killing it with all the additional content on the socials. Of course, Connor and Liz, they did a Game 5 preview last night, which is up. If you want to check that out after today's show, you can head over to that on the YouTube channel. And yes, if you haven't already, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, so much content, both from the show and from the streets with Liz, from the practice arena and the rink with Connor and Michael. It's all there for you. So be sure to check out the Game 5 reaction on YouTube, either late night or when you get up tomorrow morning. And definitely join us tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. That is going to do it, everyone. Get a nap in. Get ready to go. It's a late putt drop. All hands on deck for the Winnipeg Jets tonight at Canada Life Center. Thanks so much for being with us. Thanks to Cam Janssen, Murat, Eddie Tait, and AJ Jakubec for joining us today. Everybody in the chat, hit that thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel already if you haven't done it yet. And we'll see you tomorrow at 1, hopefully talking about a big win tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. See you at the rink tonight, everybody, and tomorrow right here at 1 on WST.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.